It is that time. Sorry about the technical delays. We're off and running, and it is probably one of the biggest SDHs we've had. Because of the technical problems, Lucas Panzica is going to join us tomorrow on Bat Lead Off to talk Nashville, and he had to go to work because he's getting paid to do things. So Lucas will join us tomorrow, coming up in about 7 minutes. It's going to be Glenn Davis. Here's the rundown for the rest of the day, and we're still going past 11 o'clock. I don't care what anybody says. So here's the deal. Glenn Davis is going to join us bottom of the hour. We're going to talk Houston. We're going to talk Western Conference. We're going to talk about Major League Soccer and anything else on Glenn's mind. At 10 o'clock, it's the Power Hour. Our buddy Nino Torres is going to go around the world in 30 minutes with whatever's on his mind. Once again, I don't know the topics. I don't know them. So when I see them for the first time, that's the first time we talk about them. So we're going to talk probably Champions League, Portugal, South America, all points in between. So that's going to be Nino at 10 o'clock Eastern. 10:30, our buddy NIko Moreno is going to join us from Seattle, and he will discuss Western Conference. He's going to have the CONCACAF twist to it because the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza was 4 matches last night, one of them involving Seattle. We'll get into that. We'll get into the Josh Atencio, say that 10 times fast, in a hurry, Josh Atencio deal and how Seattle looked last night and what they're going to look like in the Western Conference. After that, it's going to be our buddy Jamie Watson. So a little after 11 o'clock Eastern time, it's going to be Jamie. Jamie's covering She Believes. So we're going to talk She Believes with Jamie, and we're going to talk MLS with Jamie, and then that'll be a full blanking show. And then tomorrow's batting leadoff, Lucas Panzica from 104.5 The Zone will talk Nashville. He'll talk everyone in. And then see if our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring can join us in whatever form, fashion, or shape they can be in, whether it's Greg or Michael. And then the weekend whip around, patent pending, trademark coming soon, or hopefully rather than later. Jason will join us at 10:30 tomorrow to break everything down with Atlanta United as the season opener happens. Match week 1, CF Montreal coming to town in front of 70,000 of your closest friends. So that is the rundown. Morning, Ricky. Morning, Alex. Morning, Ropes. And so that is the rundown today. Figured we would have our boatload, our cornucopia, cavalcade, and boatload of guests coming on this morning. So it'll be great to see our friend Glenn Davis. And it's always great to have him on with us because, believe it or not, for those of you that may not know, this will be the beginning of Glenn's 20th, like Dos Equis, 20, his 20th season as the play-by-play voice of the Houston Dynamo. So I want to ask about the beginning. I want to ask about now. I want to ask about Houston as a market. I want to ask about Houston as a club and where things are when you have a new ownership and Benny Ball and all points in between. So, because, I mean, you look at how things are in Houston since I have to hit the calendar button. And I want to go back with transactions all the way back to New Year's Day. 2 transactions involving the Purple team with Nico Ladero and Michael Halliday. Jack McGlynn, we have to get into that, which means we're going to discuss the intra-league transaction financial rule where you just get to spend money and it doesn't have to be within the constructs of Garber Bucks and Am and Tam and Yam and DTAM and all the other AMs. So we'll get into that, get into Coco Carrasquilla, his departure, what it means for Houston on the whole. So really looking forward to all of that coming up with Glenn. Like I said, with Nino, I have no earthly idea. I have an idea, but I don't have the rundown yet. So when he pops in, we'll go fully loaded 10 o'clock. We'll break everything down. And so today is about as rapid fire as it gets when it comes to guests and touring and all that kind of stuff as we get ready for match week 1 in 2025. Yesterday and over the last handful of days, Atlanta United fans have had the chance to see what's been going on with the new faces. Had the press conference yesterday with Latte Lot. If you missed Chris Henderson talking to our Madison Cruz, you can go to our social media and catch up with it there. Maddie was at the Latte Lot presser, and the reports from that are up and around on social. So follow Maddie if you don't already, and you can catch up with his response about wanting to win titles here in Atlanta here in 2025. So the buzz is high. Actually, I should say there's a lot of buzz. How about that? Beat 2, 3, 4. And that's where things are shaking with Atlanta. So I guess the rundown quickly, opening kickoff. brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Once again, a couple of quick things before we anticipate Glenn Davis joining us from Houston. Olive in York, you can get your Kaiser Permanente on the front of the Navy jersey, or the first ever SDH jersey, thanks to them for being great partners here at SDH. Thanks to Beyond Goals Mentoring and Soccer for Good. You can get it personalized at Olive in York, either a white letter and numeral display, or the Carolina blue, lighter blue, Carolina blue, sky blue, whatever you want. And you can have that on your Navy jersey, supporting Soccer Down Here and Soccer for Good and the programs that we've earmarked in 2025. Grady Baby Co. You can get the T-shirt and the sweatshirt. You've seen Jason wear them. You've seen me wear them. You've seen everybody wear them around with SDH. Soccer's just better in Atlanta. Get the red, get the black, get the sweat, get the tee. And the proceeds from that, the net proceeds from that, get to help out middle school soccer programs tied to Atlanta Public Schools here in 2025. So thanks to our friends at Grady Baby and Grady Baby Co. for helping us with that. And I'm trying to think what else. Marshall Island Scarf Project to help out the Marshall Islands. Their technical director, Lloyd Hours, if you follow him on social media, he is there. And they are having inter-island futsal competitions. That is where they have gone in the 18 months that Lloyd and Matt and everybody that's attached to Justin Whaley, everybody that's been attached to the Marshall Islands, that's where they are right now. So Lloyd Hours is on the island, and they are having competitions amongst the islands when it comes to futsal. And so I think Lloyd has been there the sum total of about 20 hours, spent more than that on a plane to get to Majuro. He's on the island and orchestrating all the camps and the futsal tournaments and things like that. So very, very cool stuff from our friends at the Marshall Islands. If you go to their website, the Marshall Island Soccer Foundation store, you can get the jerseys, you can get the bucket hats, you can get all the things except for the scarf. That is shipped from England. All the other gear is shipped from England. The scarf for the Marshall Islands project is shipped from me. Other side of that door is where I have the scarves. And so that is where the scarves get shipped domestically. When you make your order to England, everything else comes from England. Scarves come from me. You go on the website, you'll see Maddie as a part of her, when she was a senior in college, it was her senior project, being our intern, and she was part of an international marketing campaign. She still is. So you'll see Maddie's picture holding up the scarf that we designed with the Marshall Island Soccer Federation. So it is the Marshall Island Soccer Federation scarf. It is Grady Baby and Grady Baby Co. and is Be a Fanatico as well. So sign up through the Chant app and become a Fanatico here at SDH, $10 a year. And you get a bunch of discounts for things in and around the Atlanta area. And you get the newsletter that Jason puts out, the Morning Espresso, every day, which is sponsored by our friends at Oglethorpe University. You get your newsletter, you get your info, you get your details, you get your discounts by being a Fanatico, and you get to have some special discounts and things like that with us. So that is everything, I think, that's going on. I have yet to look outside this morning, so I do not know what in the wide world of sports is going on. And so we'll see. Let's see. So Glenn is trying to log in right now. Don't think so. You just had to it's like, I don't know how Restream works. I just always said to click a link and see, so Glenn's trying to figure out if you have to create a account. I didn't think you did. But I thought it was just, okay. All right. So I thought you just had to click the link. I'm learning more about Restream than anybody should ever have to learn. So, we found out a couple of things about the bugs in the system this morning. And so we'll see if Glenn has to click or anything like that. Aha. I don't think he had. We'll see if we'll see because of Restream. We'll find out. We'll get the answer to the question that Glenn sent me 3 minutes ago. All right. Chaos ensues. One of the busiest days of the year. But before he shows up, we always have to play the appropriate piece of audio. We always have to.
Hey, Glenn Davis here in Houston, Texas. A big fan of Soccer Down Here.
Because it always does. And so here's Glenn.
John, you know better than to challenge me technologically.
Right there with you, brother. I think we're in the same target demo.
I figured it out, though. It's incredible. I created an account and I figured it out. So I'm here.
Okay, so he is wearing his Soccer Matters T-shirt. He's gassed up and ready to go.
Shameless promotion.
As it should be, no doubt about it. Good to see you, my friend. Congratulations on Year Dos Equis when it comes to being the play-by-play voice of the Dynamo, first and foremost.
Yeah, it's been a great ride for me, looking at the game and how it's developed, going from Robertson Stadium to where it is now. I actually started as an analyst. It's also the 30th year I've been involved with the league since its inception. So obviously it's been a lot of fun.
All right, so let me ask you, do you remember day one of season one when you started your activity with the Dynamo as the analyst? Do you remember that first match day?
I remember some early ones. I think one of them may have been in Colorado. I'm not sure exactly which was my very, very first game, but I was fortunate to do it with a lot of great people. I was certainly very green. I was working with Bill Land, who had a long career with the San Antonio Spurs, but also called games in the NASL, and he was just a wonderful play-by-play guy to break in with because he really mentored me and worked with me.
So now we come to 2025 on the calendar. When you look back at last season for the Dynamo, and we've had the whole 7 weeks, I guess, to ingest the whole thing, what sticks in your mind from last season that you got to see that you're carrying forward to 25?
Well, the biggest thing from last year, and it's not being carried forward in 2025, was the fact that Hector Herrera wasn't as engaged as he was in 2023. Yes, there were injuries. I personally believe he could have got his injuries sorted out earlier, right after the season. He didn't. But to watch him in 2023 was to watch something very special. So carrying forward, obviously the basis of the team, the quote unquote style of play, or the word now is game model, remains the same, but I think that's going to be altered a little bit. And that's a really possession-based, narrow team. They keep their team shaped. They're in every game. But the big question coming into this season was much like last year, was how do you score goals?
When you look at the transactions that happened in the offseason, Coco Carrasquilla gone, and you have Sebastian Ferreira gone. You got a couple of folks in from the purple team, Nico Ladero in, Michael Halliday in, Jack McGlynn in. When you look at the ins and outs, like when you and I were growing up and we had a thing called a newspaper, on the last page of the sports section in the really small print, it had the transactions page.
Yeah.
And so when you look at the transactions page for the Dynamo coming out of 24, going into 25 with all this activity, you look at that transactions page in the small print, what'd you think?
Well, obviously you're losing two very key pieces in midfield, right? So you're replacing them with Jack McGlynn. Nico Ladero now was a big signing yesterday. I think, in my opinion, we're going to see what's going to happen now, because Jack McGlynn and Nico Ladero, I think, are good signings if, and this is the big thing, I think those signings will become a lot more significant if Pat Onstad, the Dynamo general manager, Asher Mendelson, Ben Olsen, they can find a DP that's up here then. That will then allow them to do different things with Jack McGlynn and different things with Nico Ladero, right? So I think that's how those two signings become even better. Now, the other big piece that's going to be missing is likely Mikael going to Palmeiras. So they've taken about $8.5 million. It's probably their greatest transfer window ever. But the question is, can you replace the quality of what you lost? And a lot of the moves that have been made have been very frugal, but good economic moves. But the bottom line is these players have to deliver. You know, Steve Clark, they had to move him on. Salary too big. Andrew Tarbell becomes a starter now. How does your team change? He's going to be hitting more longer balls. He's going to be trying to knock balls in behind defenses as opposed to playing out of the back. How does that affect your game model? Does that make you lose a little bit more control of games and get you into games that are more fighting and chaotic and second balls? So we'll see. But I think on paper, that's my opinion. Now, on paper for the fans, I don't think it's good enough for them yet. Although I think the Ladero signing is interesting, is exciting. We know how good of a player he is. How do you utilize him to get him to make some special plays and maybe unlock the potential of your Argentine center forward, Ezequiel Ponce?
Does Nino Ladero then not start every game? Do you pick his spot so he can give you the full 90 when you can because of schedule compression and things like that? Or do you bring him in like Vinny Johnson from the old Detroit Pistons where he's a microwave and you bring him in for the final 30 and have him create? What are you envisioning here?
Yeah, that's the question. I mean, I think older players like that, as long as they're accommodating and don't believe they're a 90-minute player and are here to be a part of it, and I think he is. He's obviously bringing depth and great experience. He's one of the great playmakers in MLS history. I don't think there's any question. When you think Seattle, you definitely think of Nino Ladero. But I think there's a lot of ways to utilize him. I think it's going to be interesting. You let others go in there when the game's intense and beat each other up for 65, 70 minutes. You bring him in against fatiguing defenders. He gets an extra half a yard of space, and he can kill you and still make plays, right? So I think that's going to be interesting. And I do think he's capable of starting games. I think he started 16 in Orlando. So, yeah, I think, utilizing a player like that with that vast experience, that playmaking skill, which the Dynamo need. They need playmakers. They play against a lot of settled defenses that are back behind the ball, and they have to break them down. And it's not an easy thing to do. And that's because of their style of play. It's been very methodical and possession-based.
When you look at the McGlynn transaction specifically, the barn door got let open finally in Major League Soccer, where you could have intra-league transactions and you could just go ahead and pick folks up if the number to the left of the decimal was right. It was something that needed to happen a lot sooner. But you bring in somebody like Jack McGlynn. What did you think about this idea finally coming to the fore where you can get an Evander in if you want? You can get a Lucho Acosta if you want. In Houston's case, you get Jack McGlynn out of Philly. Philly sits there and thinks that they're Scrooge McDuck, I guess, all of a sudden with the money bags that they brought in for McGlynn. What do you think about this particular rule finally coming to the fore?
Love the rule. Love the rule. It's made for some really interesting transactions. Of course, Acosta now goes to FC Dallas to play under Eric Quill. How quickly Evander ends up in Cincinnati now. So I think this is great. I think the more mechanisms that can allow for roster build, the better. And more and more guys want to come and play in the United States. I mean, I don't think there's any question about that. The question is when do you start getting them more in their prime? But all these mechanisms are great. And listen, being a central defender as a professional player, I really love great defending, but I'm sorry, at this point, I want to see the artists operate. I want to see Lionel Messi in 5 degrees last night, take a ball down off his chest, turn a couple people and finish. I mean, it's absolutely remarkable.
I think the word that popped into my head when you were describing it was filthy, but yeah, I mean, that was
filthy is good. I don't know if everybody looked at it from this perspective because it was such a magical play, but it was almost as if 4 defenders were in fear of him and they drop off. They don't even attack the ball in the air and they give him enough room, that little window from a spatial perspective, to take it off his chest. And I mean, at that point, you're like, you're done. Guys are falling all over each other. Incredible, though. And I love it because everybody was questioning his want and desire to play in 5 degrees. That's probably the coldest game Messi's ever played in, right?
Yeah, I would think. But you mentioned 2 words at the beginning of that last sentence, want and desire. Take the weather part out of it. Want and desire involving Leo Messi are things that he's never been short on when it comes to trying to advance.
I don't understand why people are going to think this guy's not going to play just because it's cold. He's a competitor. He's one of the most fiery competitors ever. I think Pep Guardiola said he was just in practice when he had him at Barcelona, was just an absolute killer and is the most competitive guy. I think, there's a way that certain athletes and people, I unfortunately didn't get this wonderful thing, but, to look like you're not trying when you do things, is kind of a gift, and I think that's kind of what you see with him.
Friend of SDH, Glenn Davis, making his pre-match week 1 appearance here on SDH AM, and we are officially
coming on with you, John.
Oh, but look, it's fun to see you, brother, because I know that you run around at 500,000 miles an hour just like the rest of us, and the fact that you can hang out with us early in the morning with a cup of Joe, and I got my Mountain Dew, you got your cup of Joe, and we're ready to rock and roll.
Go on, Mountain Dew, huh?
Oh yeah, I'm not. I've never been a coffee guy. I never have.
Interesting. I never was until I went to Greece, and I guess I was about 22 or 23, and I went to Greece.
So last Tuesday.
Yeah, not quite. Not quite. A lot of Tuesdays ago, John.
Right there with you, brother. 2024 season for Houston, you were the 5 seed, 15, 10, and 9, 54 points. One of the things that we talk about when you come on specifically is the fan support, the fan base, and you were mentioning the transactions and winning the press conference coming into 25 and the vibe and everything. What is the vibe coming into 25 for the fans there in Houston? Because here in Atlanta, the excitement's off the charts. It's going to be 70,000 of your best friends on Saturday. What is the current state of the vibe with the fan base now?
Yeah, you got Miggy Almiron coming back. You make front office changes. I mean, it's remarkable. I mean, if that's not a statement in Atlanta about, hey, we want to win the MLS Cup, I don't know what is. And I think you can look at every team in the league and you can say, and I'm not talking about players and the competitive staff, but I'm talking about the overall organization. Are they overly commercial, or are they a club that really wants to be both commercial and win an MLS Cup? And I don't think there's any question Atlanta gets put into that category. And then, you got your great player coming back after a great stint in the Premier League with Newcastle. But I think there's a lot of excitement going in right now. The relevancy still is not where it should be in Houston. I don't mean this to bag on people, but I've been here since 1984. It should be bigger, the Dynamo, but they really have opportunity here with FC Dallas to start, and then you got Messi coming in. Hopefully the weather's going to be okay on the weekend. But, there's no mainstream coverage. There's an amazing storyline about a local youth player who went on to play in MLS who's coming in his debut as the head coach of FC Dallas, Eric Quill. Now, some might say, oh, but that has nothing to do with the Dynamo. No, but it has something to do with our Houston soccer community. And we produce players, coaches, administrators that go throughout America to contribute that in very, very big ways. And the Eric Quill story is a great storyline. You're not going to see it in the Houston Chronicle. You're not going to see it in mainstream. And in fact, you're looking at the only guy who probably even talks about it, right? Because I love the Houston soccer community and have seen what amazing things happen with people achieving from out of there. But it's still a challenge. I think they'll get off to a nice start here. I mean, you got a lot of opportunity. You're going to get a lot of unique viewers in for the game against Inter Miami, right? That maybe don't normally attend a Dynamo game. It's an opportunity for you to win them over. You're going to play an exhibition against El Salvador, okay? And we got tons of Salvadorians. If you want them coming to your games, you have to play that friendly against El Salvador to win it. Okay, to win it and put your best team out there. You got to make a decision there that we want to put our best 11 out to win this friendly game in order to try and boost attendance and relevancy. Then you got Great Leagues Cup with Tigres, Mazatlan, and Pachuca, especially Tigres. Because honestly, this is Tigres country here in Houston and Rayados, because Monterrey, Mexico is close to the border. People drive over the border to go to games. Can you get those people? I always hear people, oh, no, you can never get this generation of Mexican. I cry BS on that, because if you're not trying and your stadium's not full, you're doing something wrong. And again, you're playing Tigres in a real competition. You knock them off, you got bragging rights in Houston, but they are the number one supported team here. You aren't. So these are games you got to win, in my opinion. And you got to play well.
When you look at Houston's place in the West, what are you looking at out of the blocks with everybody else in the Western Conference and Houston's place in it? Is it still that chasing after that home playoff game at the 4? What do you see?
Yeah, I think so. I think, look, you can. It's funny. Major League Soccer is an amazing thing, right? You can cherry pick any kind of information you want to describe your season. You can say, "Wow, this is the most points we have gotten in quite some time. What a season!" Yeah, but you got knocked out of the playoffs in the first round. Or you can say, "We didn't get as many points, but we got to the Western Conference Final." Right? So, what's most important? And it's always kind of the conundrum. I don't know if you see it, but it's the conundrum of the overall body of work over the course of 34 games. And or is your season good just based on the playoffs? So you can have an average regular season, but if you do well in the playoffs, is that a great season? So it is a playoff league, and I think you can position that any way you like. I mean, I'm obviously someone, I get I give a lot of credit to the overall bodies of work, but that's generally secondary to what you do in the playoffs in MLS.
Yeah, and I mean, here in Atlanta, it was trying to fight for decision day. The math goes your way, you get the wins you need. And as we see in other playoff structures and other leagues, look, just get into the dance because you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
And last year in Atlanta, you beat Montreal in the play-in game and in the 8-9, and then you get Messi and friends. You take Messi and friends to Game 3 down there at the Erector Set in Fort Lauderdale. You knock off the big dog on the block, and then you lose eventually to Orlando on the one and dones. And so that's the momentum that you had with the roster that you had. Then Garth Lagerwey and Chris Henderson, they get to bring in Latte Lot from Middlesbrough. They bring in Miggy, and they bring in Mateus Click from DC. And you add that to those pieces that you brought in, getting that first full season of training camp, get your rest, get the 7 weeks. And so, yeah, everybody's pretty jacked up about what's going on, but it's coming off of that playoff run that you had late 24.
Yeah, and what's interesting is, you got teams in MLS that will go after the best of MLS when it comes to the standpoint of the front office, right? I mean, when you're going for Garth Lagerwey and you're going for Chris Henderson, you're going with guys that have tremendous, tremendous experience, connection, have done it within the league. You're not pulling somebody from another league or another area to make crucial decisions. So as much as we talk about roster builds and the type of players that are being brought in, it's equally interesting to watch the people that are hired for roles of real responsibility.
For Houston, I know we talked about the A-listers, the shiny objects walking in the door here in 25. Give me someone on the second level. Give me the grinder. Give me somebody that's not going to be in your TV open in the Glenn Davis spot shadow, the player to watch. Lower third comes in with the tombstone and you have the stats and everything. Give me somebody on the second level of that roster that wouldn't be in a player to watch segment that is going to be key for Houston here in 25.
Yeah, that's an easy one. Eric Sviatchenko is a center back that's got tremendous experience. I think we have to watch that now because he's going to lose likely to Palmeiras Mikael, who kind of is the athletic sort of, yin to his yang, right? He's a very intelligent defender. I think the other one you go right to is Artur, is the holding midfielder. Phenomenal season last year. I mean, these two guys are the glue of the team, in my opinion. Phenomenal experienced players. I think those two, remember, it's a team that's leading goal scorer at 6, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're into we do it by committee, I've always been from the opinion that you do need a primary goal scorer. They had a number of guys who had 6, 5, and 4. They get into the final third very well, the Dynamo. The problem is I don't think our expectations are fair on guys like Amin Bassi, Sebastian Kowalczyk, Aliou Ibrahim. They don't necessarily have a history of scoring a lot of goals. And I would throw Coco Carrasquilla into that. And sometimes the answer to goal scoring is simply having players that are goal scorers, right? I think sometimes our expectations are too high. Those guys are all excellent soccer players, but they're not goal scorers. So can they figure that out? And then, of course, their center forward last year in Ezequiel Ponce from Argentina, they paid $6 million for. Very good player, smart, uses his body well, but the guy never gets to face goal and get chances. He plays a lot of the game with his back to goal. And I think that's another one of the pieces of the Dynamo. And then that can unleash the attack. Of course, we talked about McGlynn and Ladero as passers. But I don't know. I don't know if they add a little more transition, up-tempo to their game, if they add a little bit more width to it, or these the things tactically you nuance. I mean, that's up to the head coach, Ben Olsen. I'm not questioning anybody, but that's how I see it as an analyst from the outside.
Copa Tejas to start things off, round 1. 8:30 Eastern kick Saturday night. Dynamo and FCD. Go ahead and bow your neck a little bit. Give me the promo. Go ahead and hit me.
Well, John, Copa Tejas is not the first thing that comes to mind with me for that game, but it is a Texas derby, and it is a rivalry game, and there is history to it. There really is. I think there's going to be a lot of unknown. I think there's going to be a lot of mistakes, which will make the game very interesting, just like a lot of other games in MLS. The beauty, I guess, for coaches in MLS is you have a lot of time to get things sorted out, and as you said, make the playoffs. I mean, let's face it, 18 teams make the playoffs. If you don't make the playoffs, your season was garbage. I'm sorry. It's a little too friendly for me, and I think it allows for there to be a fallback position. Nonetheless, that is the way the league runs, and I think there'll be a lot of intensity. I think there are going to be guys flying all over the place. Having gone through long preseasons myself and then getting into the first game, it's like the curtain raiser. You're almost over adrenalized to want to play. So we'll see people that are overly jacked up for the opener. There'll be mistakes. There'll be things of interest. There'll be people that might blossom in the opening game you didn't expect to. You're unveiling the curtain with new players. So I think there's a lot of excitement for everybody, including commentators like you and me.
No doubt about it. And please, if you would, sir, promote the activity that is on the T-shirt as you prepare your big
soccer matters. Yeah, it's a radio show it's usually every Tuesday and Wednesday, 6 Central. We go tonight on a Thursday. ESPN975.com. A lot of different guys that bring people on from Europe. I try to do as good a job as you do, John.
Whatever.
We have a lot of Dynamo coverage this week. We had Ben Olsen. I'm going to have Dwayne De Rosario on, the legendary MLS player, top 25 all time. He'll be on. I've got Eric Quill talking about his debut, FC Dallas. We'll bring him on tonight. So that's it. And you can hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at Glenn Davis Sock.
No doubt about it. It reminds me. I see in this new office space, there's one thing that is lacking that I need to send you, and it is one of our SDH scarves.
Send me one.
I need to get it to the Glenn Davis imitation stage.
You've advanced to scarf level with your podcast. I have not yet, but we do have T-shirts and hats, and they go to a 501c charity called the Snowdrop Foundation to fight pediatric cancer. So if anybody wants this shirt, I'm going to shamelessly promote. And you want a shirt that is good to help fight pediatric cancer, which probably touches all of our lives, feel free to grab one. We would love it.
And I have done so in the past. I've got one of the dress grays. They are very, very comfortable. And I go
with the light. Listen, you cannot wear a cardboard weight T-shirt in Houston, Texas.
No.
Absolutely die. I have a drawer full of shirts that I never wear because they're just heavy, ugly cotton. These are really light. And you try not to wear the few clothes you can wear here, the better in Texas. Although right now we're freezing our tails off. It's 21 degrees.
Mm-hmm. Right there with you, my friend. What cup of coffee are you on? I forgot to ask.
This is black. Just a good cup of black coffee.
Wow.
I do the low acidic, because we don't want to turn the stomach up and down.
No doubt about it. It's great to see you, my friend. Do not be a stranger. That link that I sent you,
yes,
that is universal to this studio space. So if you ever get a hankering while you're having that cup of coffee on like a Friday and you're bored when it's a free-for-all, you can charge in anytime you want. Give me 5 minutes. Give me a rant. Tell me how your coffee is and get out the door. I think we're turning Friday into a
anytime, John. And I got to reciprocate. We got to bring you on. You got to come on Soccer Matters here real soon. We'll set that up. And you do a great job with the podcast. I think there's a lot of great podcasters out there that we do need to give a lot of credit for bringing attention to the game. And I know 99% of them love what they're doing, just like you and me. So a big shout out to all those podcasters because they've become an important element. You know, my radio show just gets flipped into a podcast on Spotify, Google, and Apple, probably like yours. And it goes live and then it's a podcast. So
yeah,
great job. It is fun, and there's no doubt you can tell the guys that really have passion and knowledge for the game.
Yeah, it's great to be with Jason Longshore, one of my dearest friends.
Tell him I said hello. He's a good man.
Will do. And just be safe. Enjoy your black coffee. Stay warm and have a great call this weekend. We'll catch up soon.
John, thank you very much, and best of luck to all those great Atlanta United fans. One of the highlights of my TV career was doing a national broadcast in there and just taking in that whole atmosphere for Atlanta United a couple of years ago.
Fantastic stuff. We'll see you soon, my friend.
Thanks, John.
All right, there goes Glenn Davis. It's great to see Glenn because he's a dude. He's a Class A dude. And when he comes in and hangs out with us, it's a great education on a bunch of different fronts. So Glenn is a great resource, one of the great oracles and announcers when it comes to soccer, especially MLS here over the last 20 years. I can't believe it's been 20 years that Glenn Davis has been the voice down there in Houston. So really cool stuff. Hanging out with Glenn this morning, and when we can, because there are times when catching up with Glenn, to be perfectly honest, it is like trying to catch, a comet by the tail. And so it literally is like emails back and forth, an iPhone, and all this kind of stuff. To be able to catch up with Glenn before the season, that's massively important. So great to catch up with Glenn Davis, one of the great voices of the game, and we get to find out what's going on down there in Houston. And I had to ask about the McGlynn deal because it was key for Philadelphia in the outbound with the money that they got back, because I want to see how they take that money and what they do with it. Is it invested in the infrastructure as we anticipate? Is it something else entirely? Do they invest it in other players? Now that Houston has Jack McGlynn, how is he used? Now that they have Nico Lodeiro, how is he used? That's why I wanted to get into these topics with Glenn to find out what his vibe is heading into 25, where you're right there on the cusp in 24 of getting the home playoff. It ends up being the 4-5, and you are the 5 just outside of that top rung. What it's going to look like. Once again, no Coco Carrasquilla, no Ache. Pieces are a little different. So how does Ben Olsen respond in 2025? That's the big question there. Once again, remember, rest of the show, Power Hour coming up here in just a sec. We go around the world in 30 minutes with our buddy Nino Torres from Gold TV. Once again, I have not seen the topics. I do this on purpose with Nino. I don't look at the topics he sends until we start the segment. Then last half hour of regulation is our buddy Nico Moreno, who's going to join us from Seattle. We're going to talk CONCACAF, Seattle, Western Conference, all that other stuff. Then after that, we're still going. We make up for the technical difficulties here at the beginning of the show in added time, because I didn't want to use the other word because I didn't want to get in trouble with that other show. So in added time, after 11:05 Eastern, we catch up with our friend Jamie Watson. Jamie's going to talk about She Believes. Jamie's going to talk a little bit about MLS. And then we're going to call it a day. We'll go longer than 2 hours. We knew going in it was going to be longer than 2 hours. How much longer, we had no idea. But once again, great to catch up with Glenn. And one of the great voices and one of the great references, one of the great encyclopedias for the sport. And so it's always great to catch up with Glenn when we have the chance to. So let me say hi to everybody and let everybody in on what's going on. So morning, Ricky. Morning, Alex. Morning, Ropes. Morning, Old Soccer Guy. Welcome, Old Soccer Guy. Hashtag hold it down. Yeah, morning, Ricky. Morning, Ropes. Apparently we have flurries in the suburban Atlanta area. No real surprise, considering it's supposed to be a high of 35 today. Glenn said it was 21 in Houston as we were talking. High of 35. I think the low tonight is going to be 16. And remember, and I'll say this again after we finish up with everybody, turn your faucets on a little bit. Open the cabinet doors underneath that particular faucet. I think what that does is it shares the warmth of the room with the underside of the sink. I was just told that you're supposed to do that. I've always had doors closed. But anyway, open the doors underneath the sinks that you have trickling water out of the faucets tonight, in whatever part of the world you're in, making sure that that in fact happens so your pipes don't freeze. And we got some of those styrofoam covers for the outside spigots for helping us out with our hoses and things, and they've worked so far. So I will say conditionally, not really knowing anything about yard work, that those work. So we're using some of those. But once again, turn your faucets on. I think I do it on 2 of the 3 levels here at the casa, and then open the doors underneath the sink. So that's what you're staring at. Alex with a link. Apparently, last night's ref asked Lionel Messi for his shirt after the match was over. I think Eric Tommy got the one after the first 45, if I remember correctly, as they were leaving. One of them did. And I know that Eric Tommy got one. So we'll get into that story. There is a verdict in the Rubiales trial. If you missed it, he was found guilty, and it was a fine, and he avoided time in jail on the coercion charge. So Rubiales convicted of the unwanted advance, and it ends up being a large fine, I believe. It was the end of the day. So really quickly, guilty of sexually assaulting Jenny Hermoso, and judge convicted him of sexual assault, acquitted him of attempting to coerce into playing down the unsolicited, unwarranted kiss, ordered to pay fines and compensation totaling more than €13,000, 10,800 pounds, forbidden to go within 200 meters of Hermoso for a year, and told to refrain from contacting her for 12 months. 3 others who had been tried for allegedly putting pressure on Hermoso to say the kiss was consensual were cleared of coercion. Former head coach of the women's team, Jorge Vilda, Spanish Football Federation sporting director, Albert Luque, and the Federation's former marketing chief, Ruben Rivera. More on that as we go. Now, it is time. It is after 10 o'clock Eastern. And what that means is one thing on Thursdays. This is where we go around the world and find out what's going on with our buddy Nino Torres. So that means we go from Houston, Texas to Lima, Peru, and find out what is going on, because as we bring Nino in, yellow, time to get fully loaded on a Thursday. What is up, brother?
Yellow. Soccer down here, fans. Nino Torres here from Lima, Peru, and a wonderful, spectacular 85-degree sunny day here in Lima. I'm not rubbing anything on you guys, but I'm just we're enjoying the summer here. But how you doing, Johnny?
Freezing our you-know-what's off, sir.
I know.
It's going to be maybe 35 today, and then you got your liquid there. You're ready to go. And once again, what I tell folks when it comes to this segment, I ask you what's on your mind. I log out of our conversation, and then when you pop back in, it's the first time that I see it. So I don't know what's on your mind as we tour the planet once again and find out what's going on. So I have here on my mobile device, I have the topics. I've yet to look at them in earnest. So here we go. See, he's already taken 2 sips of the drink, so he's gassed up on something here. All right. Topic number 1 of 4. Raul Ruiz-Diaz, drama potion number 9 in Universitario. What in the wide world of sports are you talking about here?
Man, we've been asking for Raul Ruiz-Diaz to come to Universitario Deportes the entire year, right? Since the beginning of the year. I mean, last year, because it was the centenario. Oh, he's coming. Halfway through the year, now he's not coming. Now he's coming now. Okay. He's going to wait for ending his contract with Seattle in December. He ended his contract with Seattle in December. He came here and, no, we're not taking you. Oh, what? What? Yeah, they already signed another striker. But we knew that, all right? Everything was going on. That's fine. But then he went on and on in a series of interviews, giving the insights of his negotiation with Universitario Deportes. All right? That they proposed one number, he got another number, then he said no, and then he called him a couple of weeks later to tell him, yeah, okay, I'm going down to that number, and they were like, no, we're not taking you. It's too late now. What? All right. So the season starts, and by the way, the summer transfer window is not closed yet in Peru. It's gonna close on in 4 days.
Okay.
In 4 days, we're gonna close that window, and we already have 2 rounds into the tournament. And the number 9 that Universitario Deportes hired and signed hasn't scored yet. All right, and the other teams the other strikers from the other teams already got 2 goals, 3 goals, and everyone's looking at the sporting director like, dude, what's going on with your number 9? What's going on with the number 9? When is he going to score? And the problem is that he got the same looks as the number 9 that we hired last year, Diego Dorregaray, who took like forever to score the first goal, and then ended up scoring only 4 goals in 6 months. And then we released him, and then we just play without that number 9 that we hired last year. So he's gonna look like him, tall guy, 6'3", 195, and but he's not scoring. He's not scoring, and the people at the Universitario Deportes is so nervous, so anxious. But I want to say this on his defense, all right? He only plays 70 minutes. He hasn't played two fully 90-minute games yet.
Yeah.
And he's not, for me, I'm down to earth, right? Take it easy and analyze the things from a different perspective other than the fans, right? And thinking, all right, how many crosses did he get? Like 3 in 2 games. All right, he got 1 header, one option inside the box. He's getting into the circuit with the other players, and he's not bad. He's not bad, but he's not scoring yet. But he's everything else he does right: positioning, passing, everything. But he hasn't got yet one single big chance in the 70 minutes that he played. So I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm gonna give him 5 games. 5 games. That's the sample that I'm gonna give him to see if he will work or not. 5 games. We'll see. 3 more games to go.
He's all right. He's all right. He's okay. He's okay. All right. So I'm gonna go wild card here. And I'm going to insert a topic that came from our Twitch pitch and some of our intrepid producers and seekers of news. You remember we got, CONCACAF is going on right now. The hemispheric extravaganza known as the Champions Cup now. It is no longer the CCL. It's now the Triple C. Last night, there were folks that were wondering if Lionel Messi was not going to play in Kansas City because it was like 6 degrees with a wind chill of -7.
Yeah,
and the night before they were in Commerce City, Colorado, and Colorado was playing LAFC, and the temperatures were worse. So anyway, outside of that, conditions are what conditions are, and you warm up, and hopefully your physios and your team take care of you as best they can to keep you warm and keep you functioning. So after the match, in which it was found out that Lionel Messi, he don't care what the temperature is. You give him space, and he's going to convert and smash it and get the goal that you need to get the advantage on the away leg. So after the match, everybody wants the jersey. They want the Lionel Messi jersey for their stacks. They'll hang it and do whatever. And so last night, Messi was asked for his jersey, and he eventually complied. He waited until he was indoors before it happened.
Right.
Because you don't want to do it in 3 degrees.
No.
The individual who asked for the shirt and received it, Mexican referee Marco Antonio Ortiz Nava. So the center ref asks Messi for his jersey. Messi, waits until he goes indoors. And then he finally, gives Ortiz Nava the jersey. Messi played the full 90 and got the goal for Messi and friends to get the win in leg 1. So 3 degrees Fahrenheit, real feel -8 at the half. Javier Mascherano labeled the freezing conditions inhumane in quotation marks. But, That's when you're playing and where you're playing. It's just how it rolled out.
Right.
So you're a center ref, and after a match is over, you ask a player for a jersey. What say you, Nino Torres?
It's a tough spot, man. It's a tough decision. I understand the that you gotta be professional. I understand that this is your job, and you're supposed to be, completely impartial, right? How many chances do you have in your life to get Lionel Messi jersey, man? How many chances will you have in your life? Probably he's not gonna ref Messi until who knows when. I would take my chances too, man. If I were the ref, honestly, I would take my chances too, and ask him for his jersey. It's at the end of the game, man. It's not like It's such a gray area, right? But I would have done the same, brother. I would have done the same if I was the ref. If I got the chance. And people don't listen. People don't get fussy about this or crazy about this, okay? Because we're talking about the GOAT. We're talking about the GOAT.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's not like he kind of like lean to his decisions to into Miami because Messi. I don't think it's that way. I don't think it's that way. To be honest, it's just Messi goes above and beyond everything else, and this is an unlikely situation. So a year ago, what's the ref's name again?
The gentleman from last night, it is Marco Antonio Ortiz Nava.
Right. So Marco Antonio Ortiz, a couple of years ago, he would never got the chance to ever see Messi on the pitch because of where he was playing.
Mm-hmm.
And now you got that opportunity. I would not let it go, brother. I would not let it go if I was a ref. So I'm sorry. It probably is not the most common sense answer that you guys waiting for, but it's that's what it is, man. This is soccer. This is a passion for the game, and this is passion for the greatest player to play the game, man.
Well, and to that point, one of our intrepid Twitch pitchers, a resident Newcastle fan, Alex says, fine if it's a friendly or an exhibition, but not for a competitive match. Dignity before stuff.
About dignity. Is it dignity or is it really the right word? I don't know. That's the right word.
I would say, professionalism.
Yeah, that's the right word. That's.
So, but I mean, I get where Alex is coming from because it's like there are different sets of activity, and you want because when you're out there in the world, it's your rep. It's your reputation that's on the line, and if you're in a CONCACAF hemispheric extravaganza match, yes, I know it's Messi and friends. Yes, I know Messi is there, but this is a hemispheric competition that you were the center ref in, and you're asking dude for a jersey. I mean, if it's a friendly, like the preseason match that was there with you, something like that, I could get. If you're the center ref for that match, where 720,000 people showed up in your barn down there in Lima, I get that. But this is CONCACAF. It's like I get players asking for it. Happens all the time. But a center ref in a hemispheric competition asks for a jersey. That's like over here, man. That's like over there on the scale.
Look at sure. What's the 77 guy? Didn't Geiger ask for CR7 jersey in the World Cup?
Mm-hmm.
In the World Cup, that's even crazier, man.
Yeah, that's like
I don't know about that.
Yeah,
way off. I don't know, but all right. This is the thing, right? I wouldn't do that in a World Cup. All right, let's put it like that. If it was a World Cup, no, I'm not doing it. But
then, didn't Geiger ask CR? We call him CR40 because that's how old he is.
40.
But didn't CR40 get asked by Geiger for his jersey at the World Championships? So.
See, that's the stage where I wouldn't do that. Here and in these CONCACAF champions,
Mm-hmm.
Yes, not in the World Cup. Let's put
Okay.
it like that. That's the yeah. I'm professional too, brother, but I'm not going into a World Cup to do
No,
that.
I will. I mean, for
Okay.
me, I had one of those moments where I was covering a hockey all-star game, and before it, this is in the old days before the exhibition that it currently is. In the old days, they had a Legends game the day before as a part of the weekend. They had a Legends game as a part of National Hockey League All-Star Weekend. And so legends are playing in it. And so what I like to do when I'm in a situation like that with a legend, I'll go into my collection and I'll pull out one of the cards, one of the collector cards that you buy, at the drugstore. And I had a 1970 Gordie Howe hockey card, and I brought it with me to the All-Star game to cover. And what I like to do is I'll show the card to the legend. Okay, well, when you look at this, what sticks in your mind? And so Gordie answered the question. It was great. Finished the interview, and in the locker room, he asks me, and he's a legend in the National Hockey League. Gordie Howe asks me if I wanted him to sign that hockey card. And when you go walking in the locker room, it's like no autographs, no nothing. And so I literally said, "Sir, thank you for asking, but I'm going to have to decline because of the rules of engagement when you walk in to the locker room in that particular case." So yeah, I turned down a Gordie Howe autograph on a 1970 Gordie Howe hockey card because the rules walking in the door said no autograph.
Oh, that was the rule. Oh, okay. That was the rule there. That there's no such rule in this situation. And Alex, look at what Alex is saying, man. He just cracks me up. Is Nino suggesting that Conca Champions is less prestigious than the World Cup? How dare he?
Uh-huh.
Oh man, but man, what a situation, brother, for you, huh? So do you tell him something? Oh, you can meet me outside.
No, I had deadline. I got my interview, and I was out the door. And so that was just one of those.
You got that chance.
I had to. I had no choice. I mean, I didn't let my Bjorn Borg interview go without getting his autograph because it was a normal setting and something like that. So I asked him questions, and I mean, it was like at a restaurant. It's like we're doing sit down interviews, and I had a 75 Sports Illustrated when he played World Team Tennis, and it's like, what happened to this Corvette? And he tells me the story, and then he signed the front of the SI on the way out the door. So those kinds of things. So, all right, now back to your stuff. This detour brought to us by me. Okay.
Yeah.
Other stuff on your mind, sir. Funerals in Porto. Controversy, yes. Legacy, not sure.
Bro, the Jorge Nuno Pinto da Costa, the president of Porto for 42 years, passed away on Saturday, right? Last Saturday. He passed away. Of course, everyone in Porto, they were sad and everything else. But when it comes to the funeral, neither Sporting Club nor Benfica sent condolences to Porto. None of the the other two big teams in the country sent condolences to Porto. And Vilas Boas, the president, he was like, I understand that the rivalry and everything else, but this a human being that just passed away, and I asked my friends, my buddies that we talked to on Tuesday nights, 10 p.m. Because they're Portuguese Americans, right? And they got ties with family and all that. So I asked them, guys, so what do you think about this? Why? Why? It's a funeral. I understand that you might not like the guy, whatever, but just send the condolences. Just get the PR guys. And if you don't want to be fancy, if you don't want to be like over the top, just send a card, right? Something. And he was like, you know what? He he just fed too much hate between the two cities and between the clubs. At one point, he told me this story. I didn't know about this story, that they hang dummies outside the stadium with the Benfica jerseys, guys. Uh, Man, that was. Oof. I was like, all right, no, that's a no. That's a no. Everything about rivalry, but that's a bit too much. And he told me the stories, and I said, oh, okay, I get it now. I get now why you would not just let it go. You won't let that go, whatever. And that's what they got. And they got the funerals, and they put the coffin inside the drag-out stadium on Sunday, and it was like 20,000 people, all Portistas, of course. The ceremony was beautiful. All the cops in the center of the pitch, and there were like, I don't know how many scarves, but they covered the entire pitch with scarves of Porto, and it was a beautiful, farewell from FC Porto only. No one else outside Porto care about the passing of a president of 42 years, man. 42 years. I mean, he was involved in a lot of controversies. The golden whistle. When there was a big scandal in Portugal when they bought referees to avoid relegation for Porto, and there was like those. There are many other events across 42 years of his presidency. That's why there's a lot of asterisk around his passing. But it really surprised me, because I've covered the league for the past 6 years. I don't know about the other 40 years prior to this, but it was shocking to me.
Yep. We'll get into your matchups coming up and what you're calling this weekend toward the end of it all. Since you're over in Europe, let's discuss Champions League. And you have here, we'll come back for Libertadores. You have here Kylian, the prince that could and will become the king of the world this year. I thought that was Leonardo DiCaprio. I thought that he was the king of the world. The king of the world!
No. Kylian Mbappe and his hat trick with Real Madrid, sending off Man City, ending. I don't know what is he ending with Manchester City and Pep. Something is dead, definitely, for sure. Because I watched the entire match, and that team was playing without a soul. Man, it was like a soulless team playing against Madrid, and Madrid was just demolishing. But not only that, the collective performance from Real Madrid. It's just, this guy looks so happy. Like, he's like, finally, I've been wanting to play for this team my entire life, and now I'm finally here, and I'm finally get a real chance, a true chance, to lift the Champions League trophy. He already got one World Cup. He already got one. Did he get the? No, he's not getting the Euros. No, he did not get the Euros. No, he did not get the Euros. But he got the World Cup, and now he's gonna. Real Madrid is gonna win this. I'm sorry, Liverpool. I'm sorry, everyone else, but Real Madrid is gonna win this, because there's no one better than Kylian Mbappe and company at this very moment. And I'm so happy for the guys. He finally gets to get that trophy. I know, it's only the second round. I know, but they will win the number 16.
Is Carlo Ancelotti underrated by today's generation when it comes to looking at managers that know their stuff?
Most likely, yes. Absolutely most likely, because he's not the guy. He's not the technical guy. He's not the one that talks about XG goals. No. He's just a cool guy with his cigar, knowing how to manage people, knowing how to manage egos, knowing how to manage players, and knowing about soccer. Because with all due respect to Gasperini, to Pep, they did not win Champions League when they were players. They did not play. Pep played for Barcelona, but that Milan with Ancelotti and Ruud Gullit and Rijkaard, and that was a massive era for AC Milan. He knows the stage where they're playing. I mean, he can swim naked, brother, into those oceans of Champions League. All right, if he wanted to. All right, no one else can do that. I'll put it like that.
I just now I have this vision of Ancelotti at the Rock of Gibraltar and a big terry cloth towel. You see what you put in my head? Last topic on the board is our buddy Howard Hamilton, the founder of Soccer Metrics, does a Copa Libertadores show, and you can find that on the network. Alianza, and to your point, you had this one circled as a match of concern. I remember this from last week, and this is I think this qualifies as Nino Damas, doesn't it? As Alianza beats Boca in the Copa Libertadores.
Yes. Remember, I told you that Alianza can beat Boca. They can beat Boca. This Boca Juniors is not the almighty Boca Juniors. No, there's nothing almighty about Boca Juniors right now. They got 9 players injured. Cavani, Ander Herrera, Vincula. I mean, you name it. Okay, I get it. But you spent $30 million in signings, brother. You spent $30 million in signings, and you cannot play like a superstar team. And Alianza Lima, if it wasn't for Quevedo, who was sent off, not sent off, he was replaced because he got an injury. I mean, those wingers of Alianza, they were killing Boca Juniors. Boca Juniors was chasing all night long. And I gotta tell you this, man. That 1-0, it was not fair, man. It should have been 3-0 at least. Should have been 3-0 at least. And that's what's gonna hurt. That's what is going now. Alianza Lima going into Buenos Aires in and you know what people Rosito said, the coach of Alianza Lima, because it was a controversy about the referee. All right, this Uruguayan guy, Ostojic. I know the guy. I'm watching every week in the Uruguayan league. He's the kind of referee that's like, let it go. Just play on until he's like, all right, I can't get this play on anymore because I'm almost out of hands here. And there were a lot of situations that they could have showed red cards and cautions. And Gorosito, at the very end of the game, press conference, first thing that he says, I'm scared of going to Buenos Aires to play Boca Juniors there because of this officiating. Wow. I'm scared.
Wow.
So, because
yeah.
I mean, from the business standpoint, who cares about Alianza Lima? No, sir, with all respect, right? Who cares about Alianza Lima in the Copa Libertadores? But what about Boca Juniors? If you have no Boca Juniors in the conversation and the TV rights and everything else, everybody's losing money. Everyone is losing money. But I will see. I wanna pray to soccer gods. I always say this when it got into the unfair situations. They were out there. Johan Cruyff out there, Pele out there, Di Stefano, please, soccer gods, make it happen for Alianza Lima because they deserve it. I think brother, I think that they can pull this one off. Against all odds, right? It's against all odds because of the people, the CONMEBOL, the president of the Argentina Soccer Federation is going to be there. Probably Dominguez is going to be there. The president of CONMEBOL is going to be there in La Bombonera and the suite. Right by Boca Juniors, and like the referees looking at the boxes out there, they're gonna play not against 12 players. They're gonna play against 15,000 players, man. And still, I believe that Alianza can pull this one off.
And that is.
What you got the juice boxes for that one?
I do. I have juice boxes for the match. It is Tuesday. It is at 7:30 Eastern time. Boca Juniors a minus 323. 90-minute draw is a plus 409. Alianza Lima to win it outright, north of plus 800. So if you've got like a passion fruit pomegranate juice box that's got the expiration date that was like October that's hanging in the back of the fridge, you want to put that on Alianza Lima at a plus 800? Rock and roll, brother.
And what is the draw? What is the
plus
draw?
409 in the composite.
Man, that's a big number right there. I will go for that one. Alianza Lima is not losing this game. I'm telling you this right now.
All right, what are you calling this weekend over at Gold TV?
Brother, we were loaded this week, man. This weekend, and I got chooses. I got kicking off tomorrow with Braga versus Nacional, and then on Saturday I got Liverpool Cerro at 11 a.m. early bird. At 3 p.m. Sport Boys Ayacucho in Liga 1 Peru, and then we got the Boston River Nacional at 7:30, man. And then on Sunday morning we got Aruca Sporting on one. We got Rio Peñarol. They got Porto. I mean, I'm loaded, brother.
Hey, it's a busy season, and we love you for it. And we always like to watch on Gold TV. And frankly, I love it when we can have the conversations on the underside, and we can see what's going on, and you and I can talk about movies while you're calling a match. As always, my friend, great to see you. And we will catch up with you next week for another go-round of Fully Loaded. Thanks for dropping by.
Thank you, guys.
All right,
Appreciate
there
it.
goes Nino. And so we're going to do the hot tag. And so Nino goes out. NIko comes in. Like I said, where else on a Thursday can you go from Houston to Lima to Seattle? Answer, one place. And NIko knows where that is because it's right here where we can talk stuff and go Thursdays with NIko. What cup of coffee are you on, sir?
This is number one, and I had to get it on the go because it was a bit of a quick morning. But hey, that's how it happens sometimes. Excited. I was up late watching some CONCACAF games. All in all, trying to get you as much as I could. Trying to see where some of these MLS teams are because I'm still a little bit behind and I have not put out my power rankings. So I'm trying to use that a little bit. So we will get those out this weekend. But hey, excited to be on in the best show in the East Coast. East Coast all around, baby. All around. Excited to be on.
Love your promos as always, my friend. All right, so let's start with the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza. We got into it a little bit with Glenn Davis. We talked about Messi and friends and single-digit temperatures in Kansas City, and everybody wondering, oh, is he going to play? It's too cold. It's too cold. He can't play. Want to bet? He gets the goal on the board, and Messi and friends get the big road goal. You were paying attention to a match in particular. What are your takeaways now that you've had a couple of hours to sleep on it with what Seattle was up to in CONCACAF Champions Cup last night?
Look, I thought it was a solid performance by a team that is clearly on their season debut in a visitor type of quality game. Never easy to travel, regardless of how people may look at this competition. It doesn't matter what team you're facing. You got a big target on your back anytime that you're in MLS squad. So the teams are always going to play above their own level, above their own weight. And I thought Seattle, look, they started with about 10 minutes of really good soccer. They get an early goal in the 3rd minute by Paul Arriola that, has been outstanding during the preseason. I thought he had a really good game in this one. But then things kind of go out of whack. I mean, there is a good response by Antigua. They get very physical. I feel like Seattle loses possession. They are not as precise with the ball. I think Pedro de la Vega struggled to start off the game as well, between decision making to just not being sharp on the ball, holding it too long. He was playing on the right side, and the way they put it out there on paper, it was a 4-2-3-1. So back to their setup, or the default setup from last season. And I think what ended up happening is that when Brian figured out that Pedro was struggling as bad as he was on the right side, I think he goes back more to that 3-4-2-1 that they've been working on in the preseason. Pedro goes to the left side, and things get a little bit better. Even while playing badly, they get a second goal. Pedro de la Vega, he was, I think, the most incisive player. He was the one that was pushing the most. Maybe not perfect, maybe not as effective as he could have been, but he was making it really difficult for Antigua to just hold him back. And he gets a second goal. Tries a shot outside of the 18. Big boom, gets a deflection, back of the net. Again, Antigua is able to press, is able to push. All in all, my conclusion was that the 3-1 score line, as Coach Tapia, the Antigua coach, said, was unexpected and unfair if you look at the 90 minutes. Because in the first half, I feel like Antigua was a little bit better. They do get an equalizer in that first 45 minutes. They take advantage of a Sounders team that is committing a lot of numbers forward, very aggressive, and off of a throw-in, they get a counter, they get behind the back line. It's a foot race. Romario da Silva, Antigua player, just beats everybody on the left side, crosses it, and Oscar Santis, who's Antigua's best player, puts it away for the equalizer. So things to figure out for Seattle, but all in all, I think it was a solid performance because you were able to figure it out when things didn't work out. You didn't lose composure. You were able to get the goals. And you saw some of the players that you wanted to see perform. I think Ferreira had a decent game. Georgie Manungo off the bench was fantastic. He almost gets an assist right off the bat with his first touch on the game when he comes on. Stefan Fried, whenever his number was called, he responded. Defensively, miscommunications. I think that there are concepts that they're trying out. That high press, man, when the high press doesn't get there, it's kind of like a blitz. If the blitz gets picked up, you're exposed in the back end, and that's what happened in Seattle yesterday. So something to figure out. But all in all, a solid performance.
One of the things that we haven't had the chance to talk about because, news happens as much as we want news to happen when you and I are talking here on a Thursday morning. News happens on days when you and I are not talking, and we haven't had the chance to break down the Josh Atencio deal yet. And I wanted to have you kind of break down the 1.3 and the why and what you think Seattle is going to gain out of this, aside from, getting to breathe a little bit when it comes to your roster. What does the Josh Atencio deal do for Seattle, both on the field and off?
Yeah, look, first of all, I think that the reason why Josh is moved is because the offer was too good to pass on. I mean, it was 1.3 plus some additions that can essentially get you to 1.6. Seattle keeps a sell-on clause. There were fillers put out there, in my opinion, because the team did get a lot of calls for Josh Atencio. I'm told that at least 4 teams were on the phone really trying to get Josh to come to their squad. I know Colorado had prior interest in the player. There is a connection with Coach Little, Chris Little, who's part of the coaching staff there in Colorado, knows the player. Josh has family in Colorado as well, so I think that they really wanted the player. So the 1.3 million in GAM gives Seattle a lot of flexibility when it comes to the cap. People were asking if there was going to be a cash transfer or not. That just didn't benefit Seattle because if you sell Obed Vargas, then there's a cap of 3 million this year, and you wouldn't be able to use all of it. So they do a good job by getting this GAM. It helps their cap in general, looking into the future and what they can actually add on. They open up a U22 spot as well. So there's a lot of things that give Seattle some flexibility, but mainly you give yourself all of those resources by moving on a player that wasn't going to get a lot of playtime. So it's a win-win for both player and club, right? The team tried to move him into a center back position because they feel like they had a lot of occupancy in that center midfield. Josh started off as a center back, prior to coming to the Sounders. I've said this 1,000 times. Roman Torres thought that he was going to be a top center back. He used to tell me about Atencio. Man, that guy's big. That guy can play. But he was more of a center midfielder. So they tried to move him back there. There was a bit of a learning curve. The coaching staff wasn't really sure if they were going to be able to, play him enough at that position. So they do right by the player as well, and they get him somewhere where he's going to be more of a cornerstone. He's going to play more minutes, and Seattle gets themselves a lot of GAM that in today's MLS is worth a lot. Those Garber bucks sometimes can really help you out when it comes to your books. And I think Seattle is hoping to get a big U22, maybe an additional player beyond that. And all of this just helps that situation.
And now, by the way, the transit from Seattle, and you can't fly directly into Tegucigalpa, Honduras. You have to fly into San Pedro Sula. It is 3,059 miles from Seattle to Tegucigalpa. For a person to hop on a flight, any individual, let's just say that you get a knock on the door. There's an envelope there, and it has something more than Garber bucks in it. Let's just say you wanted to fly from Seattle to Tegucigalpa to go catch the match. It's $2,332 per person on this particular airline to go 3,059 miles, turn around, come back, and now you're the late game on Saturday after playing Wednesday night in Honduras, and Charlotte comes to town. Congratulations. Welcome to match week 1, yeah?
Yeah, it's going to be tough, right? I mean, Seattle knew what they were getting into. The team flew back right away. They were trying to quickly get out of Guatemala. I even got a bit of a text because I added an additional question there at the presser, and they're like, man, we got to go. So they were trying to get back on time. They get one region day, and then they're off again, right? They're going to practice on Friday, and then they're off to play in Charlotte, right? So I do expect a lot of rotation. This Seattle team has a lot of depth. I expect before this game, I thought maybe Obed Vargas and Christian were going to do another game, but Obed Vargas got hammered. Obed Vargas might have been the player that got hit, kicked, elbowed, shoulder, tackled the most in this entire game. So I expect them to get a little rest. And that's where the depth comes in. I think that in this game against Charlotte, Ryan Smetzer is probably very confident that JP and Danny Leyva can play those two pivots for him at holding mid position. I think that Georgie Manungu, who came in late and was outstanding, I think he'll get a start. I think he earned that. I think he's been really good. Paul Rothrock came in and played as a wingback for Paul Arriola. That's a position that I also think he could perform very well. So because of the depth of this team, I'm not really concerned. Albert Rusnak, who gets the third goal in this one late in the game, I think he'll get a start, of course, as well. So that's another rotational piece. So because of the depth, I think Seattle's going to be A-okay for that game back. Maybe a little sore, maybe some travel, maybe some, lack of sleep. But regardless of, I think you're going to see a really quality squad in the home opener here in Seattle. So going back to Albert Rusnak, a player that we had discussed, had some injuries, had some issues. Man, he looked really good. He practiced 2 full practices before that game in Antigua. Looked really good. So that's a positive for Seattle. That DP level talent, always important. Pedro de la Vega, ups and downs in this game. So that's exactly why you need that veteran presence at the cam position. So I think it definitely shifts things a little bit. So I think you're going to get a really good squad against Charlotte, no matter what. Charlotte's a tough team. They're a quality squad. They're going to come in and they're going to pressure. They're going to challenge this Seattle team. But at home, with how good they've been playing, I could probably go for a tie in that one, and that'll be a good result for the Sounders. But Charlotte's a good team, man. I would not look beyond Charlotte.
Juice boxes, for the record, Seattle favored at a -135. Your draw +265 in the composite. Charlotte to win outright is a +361. So those are the numbers with your juice boxes for Seattle and Charlotte.
Yeah, no, that draw's pretty safe. I really do expect Seattle to not be as aggressive as they were in Antigua. Again, I feel like they got exposed a couple of times on those flanks whenever their fullbacks were a little too high or the wingbacks were a little too high. They also did some work there at the end to make their efforts pay off, because now Wednesday game will come, right? Because Antigua will fly to Seattle Sunday. By the way, that's another piece of news. There were some reports that they had some issues with their visas and potentially we're going to miss some players after the game. Coach Tapia mentioned that all of that has been resolved. Every player has their visas and they'll all be coming in on Sunday. So now that you get that extra 2 goals, I think Brian is going to have a better idea on how he wants to manage that Charlotte game and then eventually that Wednesday game against Antigua. So all in all, that additional goal in the 94th minute in Guatemala, I think really helped out Brian and being able to more calmly decide how he's going to play out Charlotte and Antigua on Wednesday.
It is getting ready for match week number 1, and the match week number 1 is the meat and the sandwich for Seattle because of the CONCACAF competition. Last season, Seattle finished 4th, 57 points, 2 points behind RSL, got the home playoff game, finished up 16-9-9. Practically identical home and away, and that's what you need to have that kind of success to finish 4th. Where do you see Seattle in the mix this year? I know a lot of folks are high. The TV folks, when they gave their poll, they were really high on Minnesota for some reason. Seattle, I think they had at number 2. I think they had LAFC at number 1. LAG was 3 because of the injury specifically to Paintsel and to Ricky Puig. How do you see the rest of the Western Conference falling out here in 24 and Seattle's place in it?
I have Seattle as a safe number 2 in the West. I really think that they have proven that the team is extremely deep, that there's a lot of talented players that can hit the floor running right off the bat. There were some growing pains and some rust in that first game in Antigua, but I feel like that's going to help them even more when it comes to Charlotte. They've already have a little bit of tape on the things that we should not do and the things that we should do, where we can exploit teams, where we have to be real careful. So because of that, I guess Seattle was a solid 2. This roster, I do expect them to go get somebody in the summer. Everything to me says that Seattle's going to take the domestic tournament the most serious. I think that that's where we're going to put a lot of their effort. And because of that, I got him at 2nd. I know people are in love with LAFC. I'm not, man. I'm so skeptical about a team that had so many departures. This is unlike anything that we've seen with LAFC. People were telling me, yeah, well, Chicho left and you were able to replace him. And, Cifuentes was gone, you were able to replace him. But then this time around, now that Kike is gone as well to Gremio, I mean, man, this whole team is brand new. And look, I love La Joya Martinez, and I think he's a really good player. But I don't know if he's going to give you Bogut's numbers or Oliveira numbers. So I've talked enough about Jesus Murillo, his importance for LAFC. So I do not have him. I have him in my top 5, but not top 2. I got the Galaxy. Regardless of injuries, regardless of issues, I have the Galaxy number 1. And here's why. I think Greg Vanney has really put together a curriculum, a soccer module, a way to really exploit the best parts of his teams. And there's still a lot of quality there, man. I mean, how many teams can say, yes, we're going to wait on Ricky, but we got Marcus Royce filling in, right? And Paintsel 6 to 8 weeks, that was a while ago. He might miss, I don't know, 3 games, 4 games at the most from MLS play. So it's not like he has a really long time to be off. He's a quality guy. I love the guys that they brought on in terms of Sanabria. They just picked up Don Nacimientos. I mean, they have so many players there that I feel like they're going to be just fine. Plus the Greg Vanney component, plus a defensive line that I think has some continuity, that did get better, that I think will be solid. I have LA Galaxy at number 1.
What about, and I've got 2 teams in my mind, and so what I'll do is I'll stick to California and then come up to Cascadia. What do you think San Jose is going to be like this year, other than a fun watch, either for the train wreck factor or for the fact that they're probably going to score 7.5 goals a match? What do you think about San Jose?
San Jose is interesting, and I have a lot of respect for Bruce and his ability to raise the floor of any team that he gets into. Love the attacking end of that team. Lots of options, lots of quality. Concerns are defensively, but I feel like Bruce is going to be able to fix those. So right now I have them mid-table and fighting a spot into the playoffs. Again, I haven't done my rankings, but I was trying to figure out if in the West specifically, they were between the 8th and 7th place, so I was trying to figure out where they could get there. But I have a lot of belief in this squad. Love Hernan Lopez. I think that he wants to make a name for himself here in MLS. I feel like he has Europe in his radar, and he knows that he has to perform at a Ricky-like level for him to get there. So because of all those things, I trust Chicho. You've heard me talk about him in his first year is always where he's at his best. You got Pellegrino, you got Espinosa. I mean, that's a quality team, midfield up.
You got Joseph
We'll see
Martinez.
what happens with the defense.
Yeah.
How you gonna get there? But I feel like they have enough to be 8th place in the West.
Yep, Joseph Martinez hanging out up top as well. So it's going to be I've always maintained so far with San Jose that you only have one soccer ball, and that might be a problem at some point because
Right.
there's going to be a lot of folks that are going to want to possess it and put it in the back of the net. When we were going through we were kind of doing our power rankings earlier in the week, and I looked at the West and I thought, okay, I think there are 3 tiers here. And I think that if you look at, say, 10 through 15, I could agree. So 10 through 15, I think, is one tier. And that San Diego, Vancouver, I think Dallas will be better. I think I'm going off of what the pundits said on Apple when they did their composite. They said Dallas was 13th. I think they're sleeping on Dallas. I think Dallas is going to be higher. I don't think that they're going to be 13th by any stretch of the imagination. Sporting, they have at 12. They have all caps St. Louis City SC at 11, and they've got Portland at 10. I could see that as that tier, that bottom tier, 10 to 15. The order might be a little different, but I think that that's pretty close to that bottom tier and who should be in it.
Yeah, I'm with you on Dallas. I think that they have enough talent right now to get into those top 10 teams.
Yeah.
I feel like Portland is being overrated a little bit. They had some serious question marks in the defensive end. We've talked about Evander, the big hole that he leaves in Portland. So I really don't have Portland making the playoffs, and I have them right off the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm with you when it comes to those tiers. I think that those can shift and move. But Dallas is probably a team that with Lucho Acosta, with some of the things that Peter Musa could do for you, one of the better strikers in the Western Conference. I think that there's enough there where they can really work themselves into those top 10 teams.
Second tier, kind of 4 through 9, because we figured that top tier is going to be some combination of LAG, LAFC, and Seattle. So I figured that top 3 is your top tier. Then that middle tier, 4 through 9, some combination of Minnesota, RSL, Austin, San Jose, Houston, and Colorado. That's the middle tier that the folks that do the TV, the fancy TV stuff, that's who they had in that middle tier. Can Minnesota repeat? Can RSL find offense? Austin, first year under a new coach, and obviously you're dropping a lot of money on some DPs. San Jose, we talked about them. We had Glenn Davis on to talk about Houston and the questions that are there with the replacement. You bring in Jack McGlynn to help things out. You bring in Nico Ladero to help things out. And then Colorado at 9. So that middle tier, I think, could have some sway in it as well.
Look, I hate to say this, but RSL has really just lost everything that they had done and kind of piqued my interest last season.
Yeah.
I just watched that game against Herediano, and Herediano was so much better. And RSL's offense was anemic, and it was slow, and it was out of sync, and they had no flair, no deep threats. I mean, it was tough to see RSL, man. So out of those that you just mentioned, man, they're the ones that I'm least highest on. I like what Minnesota can do. I think that they have to me, I have the most expectation out of those teams that you just kind of put there because of the consistency that Ramsey has with that team. I thought he was brilliant last season on the way he moved certain players. Rosales, where he played them, Hawane, where he played them, the way he used those substitution patterns. I think Jaboa is a monster, and I think Jaboa is going to be fighting for Golden Boot this season. Top 5. I mean, the kid can ball. Now with a full preseason, now ready to go right off the bat. Now with some more chemistry, I think that Minnesota is a team to watch. So I definitely hire him at the higher spectrum of there. Houston, like what they did with Nicolás Odero. You saw me break this, and I think that the best and the most interesting part of the Nico deal is that they get him on a minimum salary because he was bought out by Orlando. So he kind of gives you some room to have a experienced guy that can play the cam, that can give you some productivity. I mean, look, Nicolás Odero at 30 plus years old, 34, he had played over 1,700 minutes for Orlando, had 13 assists in all competitions. I mean, the guy can still play. So you could keep Nico right now while you go look for your DP10 and you go look for all of those replacements, because you did lose Coco Carrasquilla. Obviously, you lose Mikael, which is a big hole in your defensive line. I mean, Mikael I had him in my Defender of the Year ballot, I think at number 3. So he's been that good. So now you got to fill that position, which is not going to be easy. So there is some work that Houston has to do. But overall, I like where they're going. I see where they're going. And they have enough pieces right now to kind of hold their weight until those acquisitions come in.
But you also mentioned over at Sounder at Heart that Seattle had a chance to bring him back, and they turned that idea down.
They did. They absolutely did. Thank you for bringing that up. We did have that article go yesterday morning. And yes, I mean, sources tell me that Nicolás Odero had a deep desire to finish his MLS career in Seattle. Look, it's no secret that Nico's at the end of his career, and he'll likely finish that career at Nacional, back in Uruguay with his family. But there was a time that Nico wanted to stay in Seattle and wanted to retire in Seattle, wanted to become a coach in Seattle and help develop kids in the academy and do all of these things for the club. But after, for lack of a better word, he was rejected by the club that he put on the map, by the club that he gave 2 MLS titles and a Champions League title. I just don't see him even coming back for the one-day contract. Fans were like, oh, it's all right, he'll come back for the one-day contract. I don't even know if that's possible, man. I would feel, and I haven't talked to Nico, but I would feel awful and like a big slap in the face when I gave everything for this squad, and now that I can come back, help your team, because I'm still a quality player. I could be a rotational player. I could do whatever just so I could retire with your team. And even though the commitment on my salary was bare minimum, you still didn't want me back. That's a tough pill to swallow, man. So, yes, Seattle definitely passed on that possibility. It was way before the Houston deal. Now he's happy in Houston. He feels you could tell how much that team feels like he could provide of everything that we've read about Houston and what they said about Nico. But man, I was surprised that Seattle passed on that deal, specifically knowing that they moved Josh Atencio, specifically knowing that there is a lot of competitions, and if there is an injury to Christian Roldan, to a JP, having a guy like Nico would be unbelievable, because he could play that holding mid. He could play a little bit higher. He's got versatility. He's still got wheels for his age. I mean, man, I just thought that would have been a no-brainer.
Last question for you before we let you finish your cup of coffee. Some of the folks in the Twitch pitch are wondering if Neville is on the hot seat in Portland, considering the ins and the outs and the not matching of the ins and the outs.
He better be. I mean, Neville got his bags packed, and if it's not because the seat is hot, is because he's got his job applications on LinkedIn just moving around the world. I mean, the dude just seems to clearly be using Portland as a stepping stone to another position. So yes, he's definitely in the hot seat. I felt like last season with that roster, he should have done so much more. And defensively, they were atrocious. They were awful, dead awful. I don't know if they've done enough this offseason to correct those things. And now you go into a season where all of the teams around you have revamped, have reloaded. You got some new pieces yourself. But if you don't get to the playoffs and if you don't start off to a really good season, I could see Portland starting to just raise that heat up, turn up, the heat a little bit, and maybe he goes on his own. Maybe there's a movement, but I do feel like he has a lot to prove this season, and his seat starts off pretty hot.
Jamie Watson in the bullpen. He's going to be coming up right after you. So what do folks need to know? Where are you? What are you doing? How do folks see what you're doing, especially Sounder at Heart and Pulso? What's going on?
Well, tomorrow we'll have, as usual, the podcast with Jeremiah Oshan, that maybe not as creatively as other titles for shows. This one's called What We Learned This Week, but we do it every Friday. And we're going to be going over the Antigua game. We're going to tell you what we see in practice Friday, because we are going to be at Lumen Field, where there's going to be a little bit of a press day. We pick up our credentials. We're going to have some interviews with, of course, Brian and some of the players. Really interested about what Brian's got to say on that game. We'll see what happens with those lineups coming up to Charlotte. So if you want to get a deep insight on what's going on with Seattle, make sure that you check out the Sounder at Heart podcast, What We Learned This Week. And then on Monday, we'll be breaking down Charlotte game, whatever happened, in Loving Scorchers podcast through the Sounder at Heart podcast network as well. And that'll be at 8 a.m. Pacific on Monday. So that's our kickoff. That's our Loving Scorchers kickoff with Ari Lillenwald.
Wow. That's an early wake-up call, even for me. As always, my friend, great to see you, and we will catch up with you when games have meant something next Thursday, last half hour of the normal show. Love you, my friend. Be safe. We'll see you next week.
Appreciate it, my guy. You stay easy, man. And I'm high in Atlanta, baby. I still don't know where I'm putting them in the East, but they're top three for me.
No doubt about it. You are not alone. We'll catch up with you next week.
All right.
There goes NIko. And so hot tag. And it is time to welcome back. I feel like we need like the big intro with the pyro and everything. It's been a while. It's been too long. But we bring in Jamie Watson to come and hang out with us here to put a bow on a Thursday. Jamie, my friend, it has been too long. Great to see you.
John, I'm so happy to see you, man. And no pyro necessary. That was a very kind introduction. And following NIko, who does a great job. Sounder at Heart is a must read when it comes time to prep for a Seattle Sounder game. And so just like soccer down here with you, it's, there's some local must read, must support people doing some great work in markets. NIko's one of them. And John, you're one of the best as well, my friend.
No, I mean, it's me and Jason and Jarrett Smith and Nick Alifi, Matty Cruz, and the cast.
What a crew. What a crew that is right there.
I know. We're half past crazy. That's the reason why. What cup of coffee are you on, by the way?
Oh, boy. Hey, as a data 3, normally it's 10 a.m. Central here, 11 Eastern. I'm at least 3 deep at this point. What about you? You host a show, so you've got to be just an IV of it, right?
Mountain Dew. I don't do coffee.
Or do you just standard Mountain Dew, or is it like the Code Red?
Or no. Oh, that's like.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize there was a hierarchy of Mountain Dew class here, and I just showed that I'm lower class.
No. To me, Code Red tastes like Vicks Formula 44M.
That was wildly specific. And now I'm not going to be able to think of anything else when I have a Code Red. I'm going to be thinking this tastes like Vicks 44M Red, whatever you said.
It tastes like cough syrup, brother. It's that cough syrup we had when we were growing up. The red cough syrup with the Vicks Formula 44M, the red cough syrup. That's what Code Red tastes like to me. I am diehard original, and I have caught so much crap you don't like the Baja Blast? No, I don't. I just give me the original. It's like, look, I'll own the market. Give me all the original. You guys can have all the weird flavors to yourselves and boost the market share. I'm just an original guy. Look, full disclosure, by the way.
Hey, look, any Mountain Dew executive watch. Yes, there we go. Any Mountain Dew executives that are diehard fans of the show. There's an easy sponsorship right there. All leverage is out the door for you, huh?
Correct. Absolutely true. A couple of reasons that we wanted to bring you on, and I am hoping that you will take advantage of the open door and walk through it on Fridays in the last hour at 10 Eastern, because we're kind of turn it into a Friday free-for-all and just like drop in, give your thoughts, drop out, go finish your coffee. That's kind of what I think we're going to do this year.
I kind of like that.
The first reason that we wanted to have you on is because there is some international women's soccer that is going on that folks kind of need to follow. It's not just I believe, it's not just you believe, it's not just we've believed, but it is she believes. And you're getting ready for that. And it's a handful of matches in a very short period of space from 30,000 feet. What are you anticipating here?
First of all, that's hilarious. I'm probably going to steal that joke when there's a new audience.
Go for it, brother.
So thank you for that one. Like all my good ones. Look, it's the 10th annual She Believes Cup, which has become the preeminent tournament in women's world football. 4 teams in the top 21 this year. 2 new teams, 2 new countries. You get Japan, who's returning for the 3rd time. Obviously, the United States, who host and have been the dominant team in this tournament year after year. But you welcome in Colombia for the first time. Very young, up-and-coming program in world football, ranked 21 right now. And then you also welcome in Australia, 15th overall. A name that will be familiar as manager in interim role is Tom Sermani. It's his 3rd time being back with Australia as a coach, and former Orlando Pride coach as well, too. So he knows the lay of the land in this country very well. So tonight we'll have a doubleheader starting at 5 Eastern. We've got Japan taking on Australia. That one will be on Max. You can stream that one. I will be alongside a woman who needs no introduction when it comes to her accolades, but I'm going to give it anyways. 3 Olympics, 4 World Cups, and 05 was the voted 3rd best women's footballer in the world. Shannon Box will join me in the booth, 195 caps. So I get to have her experience, and her relationship with Tom Sermani will be pretty incredible. So Japan, Australia will kick off 5 p.m. Eastern on Max, and then immediately following that, coverage will start at 7 p.m. on TBS linear, and you can also stream on Max as well. That will be the hour-long pregame show where you've got Sarah Walsh taking you through. Melissa Ortiz will be on the desk as well, and Julie Foudy is there. And we welcome in a new member. Becky Sauerbrunn will be joining, and it's exciting to have Becky because she's got over 200 caps with the team. Being with Becky yesterday at training, you couldn't go further than 2 feet with her seeing a former player and coming up and talking. And then you've got Boxy and you've got Julie Foudy, and it was incredible. And then Luke Wildman will be on the call for that one that kicks off at 8 p.m. Eastern. So USA taking on Colombia should be a good matchup and a good test. A few new faces in camp and some younger players. So it's an exciting time for the U.S. women's national team.
Doubleheader at Hell in a Shell, and that is tonight, as you say. And then on Sunday, doubleheader in Glendale, Colombia and Japan, followed by the USWNT in Australia. Then everybody heads to Snapdragon for Wednesday, Australia, Colombia at 7:30 Eastern. Yeah, they get the afternoon sunshine at Snapdragon, and then it's the WNT taking on Japan at 10:30. So that's your 3 days of double headers. One of the things that I thought was interesting, and we have Bart Keeler from the Soccer for USPOD on every Monday, we discussed Emma Hayes and this particular group, and it's not just been this group, but it's been a couple back. Emma Hayes has made a point to bring in some newer faces into camps, and newer faces getting their first caps, being put in these kinds of situations. And I because you don't have triple espresso, you got to do something. And so Emma's looking in places I think that either others just didn't, or they might have just kind of put to the side and tried looking for other folks. But you're getting a lot of new faces in these camps and for these competitions for the WNT.
Which is really cool to see. And I'm really excited to see how this group holds up to that challenges. Alyssa Nair now has retired from international women's football as a goalkeeper. So now you get Jane Campbell, who plays for the Houston Dash, so she'll get a chance to be in goal here. But you're right, there are some new names. Another Houston Dash player that I'm really looking forward to. I think she was wildly underrated, and that's partly because Gotham were so good last year and have so many good players. Yasmin Ryan was traded in the offseason to Houston Dash. So those two players I've really got my eye on. Kat Mercado comes back into the group and getting to be back in with the U.S. women's national team. She has a wild story after being out for nearly 18 months, getting a chance to come back in and compete with the group. That is something that we spoke to her about yesterday, and she said it was mentally challenging, but you appreciate it more when you're back in. So that'll be interesting. There's some good, real good storylines. You got like Emily Sands, who Defender of the Year for Orlando Pride. She was a converted center forward to center back, now one of the best in the world. Young players, though, like Ali Sentnor getting called up. She was the NWSL Rookie of the Year. Jaden Shaw goes from the Wave to the Courage. She's in with the group. Let's see. There's just so many players that are trying to make a impression in front of Emma Hayes, and that's what I'm looking forward to most. And when we talked to her, she said, look, there are 16 of 23 NWSL players. Emma said this yesterday. And I think what she's saying is, I think there's a real value on this league as being the best league for women's soccer in the world. And now we're going to give some players who did well in that league an opportunity. And we're going to find out where you fit, because if you're not quite at the U.S. women's national team level, which that level, I don't know why I put here. It should be way up here, right off the camera. First, first in the FIFA World Rankings. Emma Hayes wants to put an emphasis on this, and I thought this was really key. She says, okay, then we can use the U23s as a growing and developmental route that has maybe been skipped over in the past. So I think Emma Hayes is looking at this holistically. How can I use this tournament to identify players that are ready to surpass the U23 level? But if you're not quite ready, it's okay, because we're going to put you at the 23s and we're going to give you an opportunity to grow. So I think the U.S. women's national team, much like we spoke about with Australia and Colombia, will be looking to be able to try to establish where players fit going forward in this group. And Japan will be an interesting one as well, too, in this tournament, because they've got a brand new coach for the first time, a non-Japanese coach. So it's a lot of storylines going into this tournament. And I think it's one of the She Believes Cups where every team will feel as though they have a chance to win it. And some will have an easier road than others. But at the same time, I think that it'll be a tournament in which there could be some surprises. And I'm excited to see it unfold over the next week.
No triple espresso, no Rose Lavelle, no Naomi Girma. So then let me ask you this. You mentioned a tournament of surprises. And like I said, this is just an if that I'm putting out there. And with the time that you spend covering the women's national team and soccer in general, this is why I'm going to ask this question, because you're out there far more than I am. If for some reason, Bain comes by and it's like Heinz Field and he blows up, the turf and everything, and the U.S. does not win She Believes Cup, for whatever reason, you get a loss, a deflection, whatever. If they don't come away with the title, even though it is anticipated as such, if something happens and they don't, then how do you think it will be received, I guess, externally and internally for fans watching, and then Emma Hayes looking outbound with all of this youth and the first-timers that are there?
So I'll start off by saying I think it would take something extraordinary for the U.S. women's national team to not be the team standing at the top of the mountain this time next week, right? Yeah. I do think that they will win the tournament. I do think that they have the best team in the world, but also especially in this tournament. But let's play the what-if game. What would happen? I think that right now with this group, what it would do is it would really help solidify where that next wave of U.S. women's national team players are going to come from. I don't think that there will be any downfall to Emma Hayes or should be looked at differently after this tournament. I think that I actually truly believe that being around Emma Hayes, she has this level of respect and control from top to bottom. Emma Hayes, quite frankly, doesn't care about what happened before she was here. She cares about what's happening while she's in here. She has this assertiveness and this confidence that commands respect. I'm really impressed when I'm around her. and how she carries herself. And I don't think she cares that she impresses me and has my respect. Like it's almost actually an admirable quality as a human being that she has such belief and conviction in what she wants to do in her everyday life, but also with the U.S. Women's National Team program. So I think that regardless of how results go in this tournament, albeit the expectation, and I believe the belief is that U.S. will win this tournament, I don't think that it will change anything in the big scheme of things because there's a bigger picture to this. And so I think what players can do is they can really help themselves in this tournament and really give this as a launching point to say, when it comes time to tournament football, I can be a part of this group and contribute. Or it may just say for some players, okay, your path maybe is just going to take a little bit longer because you're going to need to go prove that again at the 23s. And then when you get your opportunity again with the full team.
Yep. 4 players uncapped: Claire Hutton, Giselle Thompson, both 19, Tara McHugh, Michelle Cooper, all 4 with international experience in the U20s for the U.S. And that is She Believes. It is 6 matches, 3 days of doubleheaders, starting at Helena Shell in Houston tonight, then going to Glendale, then going to Snapdragon in a week's time. Jamie Watson here crashing the party on a Thursday, as he darn well should. I just have this vision, like if something happens and the world opens up, that it will be some fans taking to it very, very calmly and just running out in the street and going, ah, you have one of those moments. And that's kind of what I was asking is everyone that you have seen from a fan perspective, do they understand where Emma is coming from here and looking at things in a larger picture, just step at a time? We're here to learn and figure out the future and immediate results. Yes, while we anticipate winning, there's a bigger picture to play here. Do you think a lot of folks from the outside get that with Emma Hayes and what she's trying to do?
I don't know. And the reason I'm not 100% sure is because I think and believe the way that Emma Hayes views her role as the manager of this program. And she said a word in the middle of the presser yesterday, and a little phrase that I thought was so telling, but also I caught and I noticed and I hung on to, and it's worth mentioning now. So one of the questions was from the media about, the younger players and getting the chance and will they be okay, with the moment or something along those lines. And she remembers saying that, there's my job as a manager. I don't need to motivate, because when we all wake up and we put this crest on, and this is the phrase, she goes, we're all renting the ability to wear this crest. And for how long, that's none of us know, but we all know what a privilege and an honor it is. And John, I was a part of the 17s, the 18s, the 20s, the 23s. I played for every part of the youth national team except for the full team. So I understand what it feels like to put on the crest. And I've done a lot of things I'm very proud of, but in my playing career, but wearing the U.S. soccer crest is up there. I mean, it really, really is up there. But for Emma Hayes, who's the leader of this program, to say that and feel as though even herself is renting the ability to wear a U.S. soccer crest goes to show that everyone understands how much of a privilege it is to do it. And even the top of the totem pole does. And I think that there is a mindset that is being instilled with this group and a level of confidence that she is the right leader for this program. And so does everyone outside of that understand it? I don't believe so yet, but I think they will continue to, the more that they get to see what this group is evolving into, how she is as a leader every time she speaks, how it just seemingly adds another layer of respect and command and shows capability. So I think the mindset, if there were any doubters about Emma Hayes, I would just encourage you to listen to her talk for 5 minutes, and it will remove a lot of those doubts, because she is a competent and capable leader. And I would have loved to have played for somebody like Emma Hayes in my playing days.
Strong. Jamie's hanging out with us talking She Believes, and he full well knows that I can't let him go if we don't talk about Major League Soccer, because
absolutely, let's do it.
I don't know if folks have heard, but there are games that are going to matter coming up this weekend on Saturday and Sunday. We've been going over it. We did it Tuesday. We did it a little bit this morning about the separate tiers in the East and the West. When it comes to this particular side of the Mississippi, considering this is where you live, Eastern Conference to you, what are the highlights and the big storylines that you're going to be looking at here as we head into match week 1?
Man, I think that we'll start off with Atlanta, right? Because I think that's going to speak to a large portion of your viewers, even though this is broadcasted worldwide. I think there is a large contingency of fans in the chat that'll be very curious to hear how other people outside of Atlanta are viewing what Atlanta United have been up to. I first and foremost think that the offseason was wildly successful for Atlanta. Look, you've got an owner that is willing to spend and has continued to show that. And put it in perspective, I think just the latte lathe. Am I saying that right? I got to practice on that one.
It's a hard T, so it's latte lat. It's almost like
latte lat. There we go.
It's like you're slurring the T and the H together, so it's a latte lat.
Latte lat. I got to get my pronunciations right before I get Atlanta in a couple weeks on the docket here. I think what his rumored transfer fee about $22 million. To put it in perspective, Philadelphia Union came into MLS, I believe, in about 2009, and they've gone sort of the homegrown route and have spent less than that on total transfers of players in. So Atlanta United, in one player this offseason, have surpassed what Philadelphia have done in their cumulative of transfers in, reportedly, right? All these numbers, we don't know how it completely works in the back end of it. I don't read the books.
Math, man.
All that to say, math is hard, man. I got to count fingers and toes and all that stuff. All that is to say, I do believe that Atlanta United have every reason, the faithful there and the 17s have every reason to be optimistic of a top 4 finish in the East, which obviously would have felt like a million miles away at certain points last year. They'll have to cope with losing Dax McCarty, who I felt like his leadership at times was maybe underappreciated and undervalued. But with that, this group has added layers each window, and with Garth Lagerwey and now Chris Henderson there as well, who I thought should have been the executive of the year last year with the way that he was able to be a gymnast and be flexible with that salary cap in Miami. Man, you've got two masterminds putting it together, and I'm just very excited to see what this group can do in Atlanta. I think top 4 should be the expectation for them, and then from there, you're going to have to battle against Miami, and they were able to pull it off last year in one of the best, most shocking upsets in MLS playoff history to everybody outside of the 404. But man, it was incredible, and I think there should be even more optimism this year for Atlanta. But I still think Inter Miami will reign supreme in the East.
Yeah, Messi and friends, that top tier in the East, some combination of Messi and friends, Atlanta United, and hell is real, Columbus and Cincinnati. And Wilfred Nancy will probably just continue to be on the tour of, yeah, this is me. This is what we do. I don't care who's here, and we're just going to continue to win. I mean, he's missing C-Ram. He doesn't have Cucho, and it's just like, yeah, okay, whatever. And we're just going to keep being who we are. So I think that 4 is what it's going to look like at the top of the East.
Yeah, I mean, if Wilfred Nancy can do it this year after getting rid of Christian Ramirez and sending him off, and Cucho leaving, if he can continue to do that and just replace with the next wave of Jason Russell-Rowe and players in. Now we're really talking about Wilfred Nancy being one of the most elite coaches this league has seen in its entirety. But man, it's all. This is the best time of the year, man. It's optimism. It's 30 teams and 30 fan bases that feel as though this is their year, and what an achievement. 30 years Major League Soccer and now 30 teams, man. I'm so excited for this year to go, and this one. Honestly, anybody that tells you they know how this year is going to go right now is looking you at the eyes and lying right now, John. But man, it's so fun to get to talk about it and the excitement. And then, I don't know, the sky is falling, or we're winning MLS Cup come, Sunday morning, Monday morning when it's all said and done and week 1 is in the book. So we'll see and see how it plays out. But there should be a lot of optimism in the South right now for Atlanta United.
Hit the promo for me one more time. What are you doing, and where can folks watch?
Man, if you'd be so kind, obliged to tune into Max today. We've got Japan, Australia starting at 5 p.m. And then stick around on the app or head over to TBS, and you can watch my good friends call the game. Starting coverage will start just shortly after that, 7 p.m. Eastern, TBS on linear television. And then we get the ground running. MLS Season Pass starts this year, 30th year in Major League Soccer. It will be incredible. John, this is incredible to be with you. I'm such a big fan of the Soccer Down Here Network and everything that you do, Jason and crew, Maddie, everybody that I didn't name just now, because there's a cast of 1,000 stars. So tune in, enjoy, engage. We need more people like yourself and what you guys are doing with the SDH network. So keep going. We're big fans. Thank you from me and from the fans that don't get to say that to you. And thank you to everybody in the chat for joining in and participating, man. This is what it's all about. We love this game, and the future is only getting brighter and brighter in this country, both domestic and internationally with the national team. So it's exciting times, man.
No doubt. Love you, brother. Have a great call. May everything stick to the cards when it comes to interviews, and we'll be watching it tonight. And hope that they only just give you a dusting of makeup, because HD really pulls out the Look, that's what they told us when they got the HD cameras. They're like, look, you don't have to put on a lot of makeup because people will know when you're wearing too much makeup. So just a little powder, styling and profiling. We can't wait. Have a great call. We'll catch up with you soon, my friend. Crash in.
I'd be lost without you. Thank you, John. Thanks for having me.
Be good. There goes Jamie, and it's great to catch up with him. It's been entirely too long since Jamie was here. So, okay, let's see if there's any news before we get out of here. Thanks for hanging out with us till 11:30-ish, because we got the late start because of the technical issues. But great show with Glenn Davis. First and foremost, Lucas Panzica, because of the technical problems, he's going to lead off tomorrow at 9:05. So, Lucas Panzica from 104.5 The Zone in Nashville, he's going to be on at 9:05-ish, and then we'll talk for a little bit about Nashville. See if our friend Michael Parkhurst will have come in from the cold to discuss things, or it'll be Greg Garza probably in some warm location talking about something. See if we can catch up with our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring. We'll do the weekend whip around, patent pending, trademark coming sooner, hopefully, rather than later. And Jason looks like he's going to join us at 10:30, and we'll talk about everything Atlanta United going into match week 1 involving CF Montreal. Okay. Let me go through the chat. Let me see if I missed anything here. Diego 1602. Good morning. Morning, Abby. Abby joined us. Big flurries in Marietta coming and going. Alex, we need to reinforce the idea of Nino on Blue Sky. Nino on Blue Sky, I think that'd be a hoot. Emilio, yeah, I thought that it was an interesting conversation about Neville in the hot seat. It wouldn't surprise me. Let's see. Going in, and literally this is just like off the top of my head, looking at hot seats in the West. Sporting, but I think that Peter Vermes has earned the right to go out on his own whenever he decides. Portland, obviously. And I think that'll do it unless unless RSL doesn't have a start that they're looking for and the front office starts to get a little wiggly about it, Mastroeni. And then maybe LAFC, if they don't get the start, Steve Cherundolo with the lack of offensive approach that they have. So, like I said, that's a maybe. But those would be the ones that stick in my head. Troy Lacine, DC. They picked up, by the way, Fidel Barajas from Chivas. And the numbers were undisclosed, but it looks like Fidel Barajas is going from Charleston to Chivas to DC United. We'll see how the 18-year-old helps out there. In the East, Lacine, Montreal, and I think that might be it. Maybe the purple team. Maybe the purple team with Oscar Pereja. Like I said, that's just off the top of my head for various and sundry things. So that I know that we were talking hot seats. So that would be what I would anticipate. So once again, going back to the Rubiales case, once again, found guilty of sexual assault, but the coercion charge was wiped away for him and the 3 other members accused of coercion, Jorge Vilda, Albert Luque, and Ruben Rivera. And we mentioned that Rubiales cannot go within 200 meters of Hermoso and cannot communicate with her for a year. Fine was set at €20 a day over an 18-month period. Do they do direct withdrawal on that? Like, did you get a notification in your wallet today? You get a note. Spanish court, €20. Does that appear every day on your balance sheet? When you go in and log into your app in your bank account, does it show up there every day like that? I wonder. So Rubiales once again said he consented to the kiss, but she denied it, and so prosecutors had sought a prison sentence in a case that had celebrated the Women's World Cup title, sparked a debate about sexism in women's football and wider Spanish society that comes from the news services over at the 4 Letter. Other news, and we'll get into gossip, rumor, and innuendo before we get out of here. Let's see. Is there anything going on right now on a Thursday? We do have Conference League, I believe, Europa League Conference League. I think that is later today as a part of our viewing habits. So today being Thursday, today starts at 12:45. Big one for Porto and Roma. It's 8 matchups, 4 at 12:45 and 4 at 3 o'clock. Porto, a big underdog at Roma. Roma's a minus 112. Bodo Glimt, even money at a plus 100. FC Twente, a plus 263. FCSB and PAOK, they threw the blanket over it. Basically, both to win are in the neighborhood of 170, plus 170. Galatasaray, minus 139, hosting AZ Alkmaar at a plus 328. 3 o'clocks. Ajax, plus 110. Royal Union, a plus 231 on the road. Fenerbahce and Anderlecht within the margin for error in and around plus 163. So juice boxers don't know there either. Victoria Pilsen, a minus 154, hosting Ferencváros at a plus 423. Real Sociedad, minus 182, hosting Midtjylland, who is basically a plus 500. Conference League is also going on, and their next round of matches will be available when they get all of that sorted out. So Conference League going on, and that's where we are. So Jude Bellingham has been banned for disrespect towards the referee amid the swearing that we played you on the network after the event happened in a Reffing Down Here episode. 2-game domestic ban following the red card at Osasuna on Saturday, and he was shown a straight red for abusive language by Jose Luis Munuera Montero, but denied swearing toward him. It was just swearing outbound in general. Quoted explaining that the red card was a misunderstanding, backed by Carlo Ancelotti. Ancelotti explained, I think the referee did not understand Jude Bellingham's English. Ancelotti explained, he said, F off, not F you. That's way different. However, the Spanish Football Federation announced that it banned Bellingham for disrespectful and inconsiderate attitudes towards referees. So we got to play against Man City, will not play against Girona and Real Betis. The RFEF issued a statement saying referees were sickened by the abuse Montero has received since sending Bellingham off. Pep Guardiola said the translation of Bellingham's comments were not the issue. Quote, my English is good, but I don't understand the difference between F off and F you. Guardiola said ahead of the second leg of the last 16. But what's important is the intention, not the insult. The best thing is not to do it and leave the referees in peace. There have always been decisions. You should ask Jude what his intention was. That's what matters. So that's part of the quote from Pep Guardiola. Harry Kane ruled out for an indefinite period after aggravating a calf injury. So we can keep an eye on that and the race in the Bundesliga. Avram Glazer has responded after calls to sell Manchester United. Glazer has said he will not sell after the latest financial results. Let everybody know how bad things are financially for Manchester United. We talked about the sacking of Ten Hag, the staff, and Dan Ashworth being about the total of £14.5 million. Sir Jim Ratcliffe, once again, owns 29%. He's made cuts at Old Trafford amid a substantial drop in revenues and operating profit. So Glazer family remains majority owners, and asked in Miami if Avram Glazer would sell. He gave an emphatic one-word answer, no. Quarterly accounts showed that United's earnings in the EBITDA, earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization, £70.5 million for the second quarter. But player trading and interest costs means they ended up recording almost a £28 million loss. Total revenue down 12%. Net finance costs are up, and due to an unfavorable swing in the foreign exchange rates on U.S. dollars borrowing. And supporters trust groups said that it was a grim read to see what was going on with Manchester United. But when asked, Avram Glazer said, I ain't selling. Arsenal's going to lose Tomiyasu for the rest of the season after knee surgery. And so keep an eye on how that impacts the back for the club. Let's see. So what else am I missing here? Chelsea director in an interview said that Enzo Maresca's job is 100% safe for the rest of the season, despite the current run of results. And Arsenal is going to join the big teams in the Premier League as their wage bill soars by almost £100 million. So keep an eye on Arsenal and their finances. Now, let's see. We mentioned what happened with Manchester City. Let's get into what happened in the other matches in the what's the word I'm looking for? Champions League. So Champions League, the last 16 draw once again with Tom Morgan and Jack Domenicis. Round of 16 is now there with Real Madrid, PSV, PSG. So you have PSV, Eindhoven, and PSG, and Dortmund looking. They have now booked their slots. So Feyenoord, Bruges, Bayern, Benfica, 8 unseeded, now going to take on the seeded teams who finished in the top 8 of the league phase. Real Madrid, once again, winning 6-3 in the aggregate. The draw is going to be tomorrow. So tomorrow in Switzerland is going to be the draw for the round of 16. That'll be early in the morning, so we'll have news on that in the first half hour of the show tomorrow. So now in the Swiss League format, you have those 8 teams. Phase that are seeded: Liverpool, Barca, Arsenal, Inter Milan, Atletico Madrid, Leverkusen, Lille, and Aston Villa. Dortmund, Real Madrid, Bayern, PSV, PSG, Benfica, Feyenoord, and Bruges will be joining. Rankings 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, and Feyenoord's 19, and Club Bruges is 24. So you have it laid out that Liverpool got the top spot, gets them a tie either against PSG or Benfica. Liverpool get to play their second leg of the round of 16 tie at home, and the team that they do not draw will instead face Barcelona. Arsenal means that they get either PSV or Feyenoord. Villa gets in the 8th slot either Dortmund or Bruges. No buffer for the Europa League for years. Remember, if you got bumped out in the opening round of the Champions League, you dropped to the Europa League. Now, those teams who lost the playoffs join all the teams who finished 25th or below in the European elimination. Europa League and Conference League also using the Swiss model format. Last 16 round, March 5, March 11 and 12. Quarterfinals in 2 weeks in April. Semifinals in April and May. And the final on May 31st. So that is the rundown of Champions League and the draw. So we'll know the draw tomorrow morning when we come on the air. So very, very cool stuff. And we know the next go round when it comes to all of the activity in Champions League. Brentford, we discussed the research and development monies that were picked up by clubs from the British government and it was public funds for going into research and development. Brentford now has received, it has been now public, according to Matt Hughes at The Guardian, Brentford has received £3.25 million in public money for research and development. Tax credits for $16 million that they spent on research. Academic papers were written on training and positional play. They commissioned sports science, medicine training tactics over the last 2 years. Teams in the tax credit, once again, scheme overseas is basically a program here. Brentford said the R&D program says businesses can claim back 20% of the costs of a research project on the proviso the results of the research are made widely available and create an advance in the overall field. Brentford spent about £16 million on their research department over the last 2 years, including the publication of academic papers on a range of subjects, including training loads, running intensity, and positional play. Results have been used by Thomas Frank, and they are renowned once again for high energy and intensity. So the Guardian has been told that part of the payment of that tax credit was backdated for a claim that was made the previous year. The program was set up in 2013. Chelsea claimed £2 million in tax credits. Nottingham Forest over £607,000. Both clubs declining to discuss what projects the money was awarded to support. Brentford has been more open about it. They recruit about a half dozen PhDs every year to conduct research, with the results published and fed back to the football department. So Brentford was made public that they're also in that research and development program, but they have made their results and their R&D public, which was the idea behind the program in the first place. So they spent $16 million, got about $3.25 back. So well done there by Brentford for going public with all the info. Okay. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it before we get out of here, because it's almost 11:45. All right. So gossip on the board for today, in and around Mark Gahey. Shocking no one, Chelsea wants to spend money. Chelsea determined to be in front of the line ahead of Crystal Palace for Gahey. Joined Palace from Chelsea in 2021. Chelsea remain convinced they can sign Gahey in the summer, despite their failed approach in January. Liam Delap is also on their radar. That's from the three-letter paper. Liverpool and Manchester City both interested in Jeremy Frimpong, who has a gentleman's agreement with Bayer Leverkusen to listen to offers worth €40 million. He was in City's academy before moving to Celtic in 2019. Arsenal monitoring the situation of Hugo Ekitike, could test Eintracht Frankfurt's resolve with a bid in the summer. Arsenal also optimistic of signing Real Sociedad and Martin Zubamendi, the midfielder, who wanted to stay at Sociedad rather than join Liverpool last summer. Shalman Kelleher remains a top target for Chelsea. Blues are prepared to pay up to £40 million for the backup keeper at Liverpool. Barcelona's Lamine Yamal has played down reports of a move to PSG, says he loves Barca. Oh, by the way, Christian Pulisic has gone public and said that, no, I like it here. They tried to get in front of that in a hurry with the comments that were put out this morning that he's not happy on campus. There was a public statement stating the contrary by Pulisic and the club. Luis Diaz wants to sign a new deal at Liverpool, even though his deal still has 2 years on it. Barcelona could turn their attention to Diaz, long-term target, be cheaper than signing Rafa Leao, because I don't know how they would pay for it. Al Ahly could launch a world record bid for Vinicius Jr., would be offered around €350 million by the PIF. Leicester and Crystal Palace looking at Midtjylland's forward Franculino Ju, who came through Benfica's academy, and Luis Boamorte, current head coach of the Guinea-Bissau national team, interested in the vacant manager job at Blackburn Rovers. And that's from the three-letter paper. Okay, now, what's to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. We'll get out of here. Then we'll be back at it again tomorrow at 9:05. Once again, 9:05, Lucas Panzica, 104.5 The Zone in Nashville is going to join us. And then Jason's going to join us at 10:30. We'll see if our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring will join us as well. And we'll see if Michael Parkhurst is still freezing. So we'll see what happens there. So now, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. And once again, you got Jamie's plug on She Believes Cup. So it is, once again, the doubleheader tonight. You heard Jamie talk about it. Copa Libertadores is at 5 and 7:30 on BN Sports. If you don't have BN en Español, who is simulcasting those two matches tonight, TSA, Nuestra Tele, for the fans, CDO, TSA, Gold TV, and you can watch our buddy Nino Torres. Go to Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here, and you can get all the info that you need when it comes to being a true degenerate and watching all the leagues that they have to offer. CBS Sports Network, 2 matches in Europa League, Roma, Porto, Real Sociedad, and Midtjylland at 12:45 and 3. FS2 has a U20 Women's Championship out of CONCACAF at 3 o'clock, Costa Rica and Aruba. Saprissa and Vancouver Whitecaps in the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza. That's at 8. TBS, She Believes, USA Colombia at 8. BN en Español simulcasting BN. 2 to NA has Roma Porto at 12:45, Anderlecht and Fenerbahce at 3. They also have Saprissa and the Whitecaps at 8. Universo has Japan, Australia, USA Colombia, She Believes. Fox Soccer Plus has the U20s with Guatemala and the Cayman Islands at 6. Max simulcasting She Believes at 5 and 8. Paramount has all of the matchups in the Europa League. Conference League has 8 as well. Real Betis, Ghent, Heidenheim, Copenhagen, Olympia, Borac, Banja Luka, Paphos, and Ammonia Nicosia at 12:45. Panathinaikos and Vikingo Reykjavik, Apoel and Celje, Rovers and Molde, Jagiellonia, Bialystok, and Basha Topola at 3. Peacock simulcasting She Believes. Vic simulcasting Europa League and Conference League and CONCACAF Champions Cup. And that will do it. Man, it's a lot of stuff. Thanks for hanging out with us. And once again, thanks to Glenn Davis. Thanks to Nino Torres. Thanks to Nico Moreno. Thanks to Jamie Watson getting ready for She Believes. And thanks to all of you guys for hanging out with us. And once again, sorry about the technical delay. I think we figured out what happened. But thanks for hanging out with us. Back at it again in less than 22, almost less than 21 at this point. And we'll be back at it tomorrow to put everything in line to get you ready for match week 1 involving Atlanta United, Major League Soccer, Nashville, and all points in between. Whew. Okay, that's the show. Mucha plati, I'll play it safe. It's the end of the show. That means I get to do this. We'll be back at it again tomorrow, 9:05.